He's only playing his own jingle. He's full of himself, this guy. Captain Crypto in the building. I love this song.
I've never listened to the full 1 minute. It's really good.
It's good, isn't it? Feels like saying it's science garden, doesn't it?
Excuse me for a minute. My microphone's about to fall off of its stand.
I did wonder.
You take over.
So in case you're wondering, what the hell is this theme music we're playing? This is the Understanding Crypto podcast theme music. That's right. Myself and Captain Crypto, we launched a podcast about 4 weeks ago, and it's gone off like a bit of a rocket, to be fair. We've had lots of very, very interesting conversations. We've had multiple people approaching us and big sort of organisations within the Web3 space about sponsoring the podcast. We've had partnership deals offered on the table and all sorts of stuff, haven't we, in the last couple of weeks? It's gone into the iTunes top 10 investment podcast in the United Kingdom. Well, I haven't checked the charts actually in the last couple of weeks. I'll do that for my own ego purposes in a second. Give you all an update. An update nobody asked for and nobody cares about, quite frankly. But yes, every single week, myself and Captain Crypto, we are bringing you the goods in terms of Web 3.0. And we've extended that podcast into this clubhouse room as well. So, every week we are trying to make the complex world of Web3 a bit more understandable to the average Joe and the average Jane. This week, and we'll probably get into this, we'll use this as this sort of the initial structure of this morning's conversation. We on the podcast, we discuss basically protection of digital assets. And the reason for it at the time of recording was when all the sort of the Russian oligarch boats and stuff were being pulled out of harbours in Monaco. And also the Canadian government had frozen the assets of people who are protesting in the city centres, which then sort of raised the debate of what's actually going on in the world of finance and how can sort of a decentralised sort of financial and fiscal setup actually work to protect your assets. We're in just an update, guys, on the charts again. Not that anybody cares. Up one place in Ghana, currently at number 24. Down 5 places in Egypt to 88. It's a bit of a shame. We're still in the top investing podcast in Nigeria, top investing podcast in Israel, top investing podcast in Singapore. Bad news, guys. Down 31 in France. Down 31 in France. Up 6. It's like a shit chart show, isn't it? Up 6 to 35. In the investing chart. So it's still there. It's hanging on in there. It's jumped another 11 places. It's still in the iTunes top 100, which is kind of cool. So thank you to everyone who supported the Understanding Crypto podcast, because honestly, I've been involved in, well, as of this morning, actually, I've had another one that's gone live. So I've done 151 podcast launches now. And there's been probably a handful of times where one's like popped off quick and you're like, oh, something's happening here. And that's definitely happening with this show. So I'm glad that you forced me to make it, because I really didn't want to, frankly. But then I heard some cool theme music. I was like, yeah, all right, then we could do it. Why not? But yeah, so that's why we're doing today's conversation all around the subject of the podcast. We're going to pin the link to the top of the room. We can tell we don't know what to do with Shipman. God knows where Shipman's got to.
Has anybody seen Ashley Shipman? Where the hell
is Ashley Shipman? If you have seen him, if you are in the Essex area, if you see a small confused boy, well, looks like a man-child driving around with his window open, you'll be able to hear the seatbelt signal beeping, because he never wears his seatbelt. There'll probably be like a steam of smoke coming out of the window because he's smoking a fag, and he's probably on a rush to an office to get a car parking space, which you'll then have to move in about half an hour's time. So if you have seen Ashley Shipman, please approach him with caution. He's not armed. He's definitely not dangerous, but he will talk your ear off. So just be careful if you do see Ashley Shipman. And if you do, can you send him home? Because we're a bit worried about him. Thank you very much.
And actually, in our threesome that goes on, Ashley usually arranges the stages. So bear with us a little bit if you're in the room, and you usually come up on stage. We'll get to all that sort of stuff. We don't usually do that.
I don't know. I don't even know how he does it. How do you do it?
No, we just leave it to Ashley, and he takes care of that stuff, doesn't he? So we'll work that out.
Guys, we've got to organise a stage.
Yeah.
All right, Ash. Don't even know what that means. Sure. Do you want me to open? Does it make any difference these days, Ash? Sure.
Do you remember when it used to make a difference?
It did though, did it? Yeah.
Don't think it does now.
No, I don't think. I think everyone's like 6:30. They're either going to turn up for this chit chat or They're going to jog
You
us
used
on.
to have in Clubhouse, it used to be the bell notification, didn't it? So people used to set the bell notification on specific individuals so that when they used to go onto the stage, they used to get notified by the bell, but I don't think anyone does that anymore. Or I don't actually think it works like that. I've not had a notification come through Clubhouse in probably about 12 months.
You've probably had thousands of them. It got to the point where everyone just ignored them, didn't they? Do you remember when you were getting like about 1,000 a day? Yeah, because every time someone goes live, apparently new people were nominated to join your club Bulletproof Business. There you go.
Oh, really? Okay.
I don't even know what that means anymore, frankly.
No.
There you go.
Anyway, so yeah, we will arrange a stage, so bear with us. Couple of caveats before we start, ladies and gentlemen. As always, when we discuss all topics of crypto, the bots come out to play, whether they're bots or whether they're just people.
Catherine Luis is already in there. Learn how to make more money consistently by placing trades with our signals. I'll tell you what's going to happen here, Catherine. Shove it up your bum. You're out of here.
So the chat is open, but what usually happens, like we've just discovered there, within seconds, people start spamming the chat with all sorts of links.
I'm going to try and find Catherine in the
how
audience.
you can make hundreds of thousands of pounds overnight. So
I will find you and I will kill you.
If you're really out there, Catherine, and you're down in the audience, raise your hand and you can come up and tell us how we can make hundreds of thousands of pounds overnight.
She's there. She's there if she's real. Catherine, come and have a go if you think you're crypto enough. Oh, no, suddenly disappeared. Sure. Be warned also, be warned about the spam bots. The other thing is that if you are a genuine idiot, we will call you out because we can't do it in Ashley's round because Ashley still likes to be everyone's mate, doesn't he? Ashley's like Mr. Popular because he's like I once dubbed him the king of Clubhouse on the podcast and he took it a bit too far and now he generally believes he is a king. So he has, if me and Paul get too rude, he's like, guys, we probably should, just be respectful of the community and stuff. When he wants to call you out and stuff, he just speaks in his really weird tone of voice, and you can't really understand what he's saying, just a little bit. But he's not here today, so be warned, you might get your ass whooped today.
Yeah.
Have you turned up with a good vibe today or not?
I'm okay. Yeah. To sleep last night.
I didn't. I got woken up at 4:15. And I was like, do you know what? I might as well just go to the office. So I was here at 5:20. I
wish I'd known that. I could have given you some work to do.
I've had plenty of work to do, me. Anyway.
So please, again, just before we get into the bulk of the room today, keep an eye out for any of the links that people send to you. Do not click on a link from someone that's unsolicited. Do not under any circumstances give out any details to do with your wallet, your crypto wallet, your seed phrases. Keep all of that stuff secure. Just be really, really alert when it comes to your digital security, especially when we're talking about these types of subjects, because it seems to perk the ears up of a few
spammers.
Yeah, not so honest actors. That's probably the best way to describe it.
Shout out to Carl in the chat, just going, oh, now how am I going to make my millions? Because we got rid of the Catherine.
There we go. And actually, also, can we give you a word of warning? If you see anything to do with a Winners Club NFT at the moment, it's not us. So please do not participate in that, because somebody popped up with a Winners Club NFT over the last couple of weeks, which is nothing to do with us, although it seems to be presenting itself as us. So be aware of that, and that's not us. We will have an NFT soon. We will have our tokenized.
What? You're dropping those bombs?
Tokenized access to various parts of our ecosystem soon, but at this moment in time there isn't a Winners Club NFT that you can purchase. So if somebody's asking you to purchase one, it's not from us. There we go. Word of warning over.
Done. Right. So let's get into today's chat. So we have, by the way, we're going to pin the link. How do you do a pin link thing? God, I tell you what, I really underrate the skills and talents of Ashley Shipman, and now I wish I hadn't, frankly. I don't know how you do a pinned link. Is there a link tree thing?
Yeah, click the three buttons at the top.
Oh yeah. I don't know. I don't have the link tree.
Then click on pinned link.
I ain't got the link.
I can send it to you.
I'll just pin the podcast instead. So go and check out the podcast. Anyway, today's episode, as I mentioned, we are talking all about decentralized protection of your assets. Because we were talking, on the podcast, it was a very strange situation a couple of weeks ago when people's boats were getting pulled out of harbours, etc., for links to the Kremlin, which that narrative is quite easy, frankly, to swallow. What's less easy to swallow, I guess, is the fact that I don't know if anybody saw this. Give us a flash to the mic if you're on stage if you did see this. The Canadian truckers. Basically, in Canada, the trucking industry is so integral to the sort of the overall supply chain and sort of running of the country. They've got huge power. And basically, because of all the COVID-19 restrictions that were still in place over there, the unions basically got the ump and said, right, do you know what, we're going on a strike. And a load of these truckers, like hundreds of truckers, literally parked their gigantic articulated lorries all across cities. They literally like gridlocked entire cities. And in these trucks, they can survive for like 3 weeks. They've got heating and food and all the rest of it. And they just parked up. And the government couldn't do anything about it. So the government froze their assets. They actually froze the assets of the protesters. Now, when you're watching the news and when you're hearing the news and the agenda is about, Russian oligarchs and, people who've got, gazillions of pounds, it's a little bit, I guess, it's easier to palate, isn't it? It's easier to just go, well, yeah, that's good. Because they've got more money than they know what to do. If they're not going to go hungry, fair enough. But when it becomes everyday Joes and Janes, who are people who are, working citizens of a country, and your own country freezes your assets because you don't adhere to their narrative, that's genuinely a bit scary. Now, don't get me wrong. We've, in the podcast we talk about, there's a proceeds of crime, and obviously, if you commit a crime, you shouldn't get to withhold the money or the benefit from that said crime. But when you're a truck driver in Canada and you don't agree with how your country's been run for the last 2 years, you decide, you know what, I'm going to peacefully protest by parking my truck here, and then they freeze your bank account. I think that accelerates the potential requirement for decentralization of your finances. But then there's a lot of people on the flip side of that conversation who are like, well, but it's not right that, the Russian money can be moved around. It's a hot potato.
I've got a family member. I've spoke about him before. He's very high in the gas.
Yes.
He's head of a desk for a huge UK gas brokerage.
What does that mean?
He's head of a trading team.
Right.
That trade gas. Yeah. Right. On a few derivative. They change gas. They're commodity traders basically, but they trade the future of gas. So
he's not flogging like those Cala.
No. So
bottles.
What basically happens is, I'll give you my understanding of it in a nutshell, is there's two types of ways of trading gas for the I'm talking about for big entities. So take your E.ON and your massive power companies. They will buy energy based on future markets. So they'll have people looking at the weather patterns and stuff like that, and they'll be predicting that it might be a really cold winter in 2023. Okay, so they'll be buying gas. They'll say, well, we need a lot more gas. We're predicting we need a lot more gas in winter 2023. So we want to be buying gas at this price. And then in the back end of that, people that work for E.ON are setting the tariffs at a certain price, knowing that what the price is going to be in winter 2023. Because they've already locked their prices in for 2023, and they're buying an amount of volume, or they're guaranteeing to buy a volume of gas from somebody in 2023.
Yeah.
Okay. The other way of that transaction has to be done through a broker, which he is. They're the UK's largest broker for that, or Europe's largest broker for that, actually. The other way of trading gas is through an exchange, where it's peer-to-peer stuff. So it's exchange trading.
Right.
Okay? Their industry is absolutely destroyed, i.e. the brokerage side of things. They've had very, very, very good years, really good years, but they're all looking for new jobs now because
really
the what's happened in the energy market is it's so volatile that nobody wants to trade in the long term. So they're just all raising their prices and they're trading what's in front of them that day ahead.
Right.
So where their business would be very heavy on future trading, nobody's trading in future. The other thing that's the issue when you trade with somebody in future is all you're doing is you're making a promise to buy that from them in, say, winter 2023.
Yeah.
So now you've got a risk that between now and winter 2023, that the person that you're buying it from still exists and still still can deliver that gas to you in 2023. So it's very volatile at the moment. So nobody's trading. Okay. So he's got a team of 35 people that have made fortunes, small fortunes from trading energy. Now, some people would say, well, they've had the good times and now they're having the bad times. All of that aside, it's really interesting because I see him a few times a week, and it's really interesting because he's quite an intellectual guy, quite a clever guy, but his whole aim of his sniper rifle is now pointed towards crypto.
Really?
Yeah, we've got to just shut crypto down. Like, we've got to shut it down. Crypto's the bad thing. We've got to shut it down. The block,
really?
Yeah. Bitcoin they just got to stop it. Somehow they just got to stop it. It's like the mantra and the messaging within those spaces now is that point the target towards that. That must be the bad thing.
And why is that? Is it just to take heat off the
there's this misconception, isn't there, that and it is when you actually look at the data and you do a lot of reading into it. There's a big misconception that so basically he wants to end the war. So he's actually once this war stops and there becomes the uncertainty goes away, their industry will come back and they'll be able to continue to. People will be willing then to take the risk.
Yeah, but
they see the messaging is that blockchain is how the war machine is being funded.
Is that the narrative?
Yeah, so like Bitcoin, crypto trading, crypto assets, movement of digital assets is how Russia is circumventing sanctions to fund the war machine, Putin's war machine, right? And there will be people that are listening to this now that are gonna be saying, well, yeah, that is how they're doing it. But actually, if you know a little bit about that world and how it works, it would be the millions and millions that they would need to move to circumvent sanctions. If you try and move that through the blockchain, it's fully visible to everybody. People can spot that. The people that know what they're looking for can spot that and see that. So whilst there has been an increase in trading activity from Russia, and I would say a lot of that is probably from its population as well, by the way, who have had their currency just fall to pieces.
Yeah.
It would need so much volume of trading to go on for them to be able to circumvent sanctions that it would just be spotted straight away. But the general consensus is from people in that world is that if you shut the blockchain, shut Bitcoin down, that's what everybody says, isn't it? That's what you reach. Shut it down. There's been legislation tried to be passed in the Congress in America.
You said this, yeah.
There's been a bill tabled in Congress to basically, the wording of it was digital assets. So to basically prevent trading of digital assets to Russian-linked addresses, which won't pass because it doesn't seem to have the support, according to the article I was reading, but it's been tabled by somebody. So there's already movement to do that. There's the anti-money laundering policy that's come out here in the UK, which is preventing a lot of really good tech blockchain companies to pick up their businesses and move somewhere else, basically. They're moving out to Lithuania and Croatia and other parts of Europe because they've decided that the anti-money laundering process in the UK is so stringent that they're better off just not applying and moving somewhere else. So there's a question of, is all of this attempts to try to prevent, which we've said before, haven't we, in this room, is all of that attempts just to prevent and take aim at or prevent the modernisation of an industry, which is, essentially going to be finance first, DeFi.
Yeah, 100%.
Or prevent the disruption. Very interesting. When you start looking at the news articles around that, it's very, very very interesting about how all this regulation's coming out and people are trying to regulate it. But effectively, it's just, in my eyes, it's attempts to try to stop the disruption to some of the big sectors that's about to fall onto their laps.
It makes sense that, those that don't know so much, I guess, would sort of, everyone sort of understands or believes a narrative that suits their own agenda, don't they? But someone like your pal, for example, who's like very intelligent, articulate, smart, for that to be like, oh, yeah, just shut it down.
Well, he said to me, the US have just got to shut down blockchain. I said, well, but Bitcoin, I said, they can't do that. What do you mean shut it down? There's not something you can shut down.
Yeah.
It's not like that. It's not like you can just put a sanction on an individual. It doesn't work like that. But yeah, lack of understanding.
Yeah, interesting.
And a belief of the media that you read.
Hey, good morning, Paul.
How did I know? Good morning, Amy. I knew you was flashing.
I was flashing like a maniac. I think I probably...
How did you say your name? M.A.?
M.A., you said it correctly. That's it.
Okay, fantastic.
Thank you. And actually, you found Ashley, I see.
Yeah, we were a bit worried. It's fine.
Was he just like kind of lost?
Do you know what it was? Shuffles? Ironically, he was downstairs under a rock in the car park. I hadn't turned that particular rock over. I found him. He's fine. He's absolutely fine.
Good.
He's so small. He actually, and then I didn't realise that he only got in the car park because he was in Paul's top shirt pocket the entire time, like a tiny little fairy boy.
Paul, I was going to say, to your point regarding the United States, because I've been following this space like really really heavily. And one of the things that Biden has done, which I do agree with, is that he has actually charged the cabinet, his staff and the teams, to take 500 days plus and do all the research imaginable on blockchain, Bitcoin, and come back with a report. So they're not going to regulate it. They're probably not going to do it till 23, 24, because he wants his staff to be educated, as you just said, on making decisions, right? Because the gentleman that you spoke about with derivatives and commodities, they could be the smartest people on the face of this earth, but I'm a technologist. So if you don't understand the depth of the technology, it'll be hard to understand why people are like missing the point. So when you look at what Biden has just done, I think one of the good things he did is required people in his cabinet to start researching it. And Janet Yellen, who was like anti-crypto, drama, flipped the script recently and said something really powerful, paraphrasing, and it dovetails to what you just said, Paul. It's really about understanding where innovation is going to go. What people are not seeing is that there's a bigger geo-economical situation going on, and it has nothing to do with, and this is going to sound really harsh, the war is not going to be stopped by just putting, hypothetically out Bitcoin. It doesn't work that way. There's a bigger problem, which is energy in Europe. And the use of energy in Europe, there's pipelines, there's a lot of movement back and forth of energy, but clearly it's showing you that you have a risk if you rely and put all your eggs in one basket, right? So if you imagine right now, Germany's in a really precarious position because it's one of the EU countries that heavily relies on Russia for energy, right? Now, when you look at countries like Netherlands that are using wind and solar and other elements of energy, they've taken the initiative to open up drilling again in Groningen, which is off the North Sea in Holland. So they already made that initiative like 4 weeks ago. So what you're seeing is countries are needing to assess their energy usage and their energy management, which really in essence has nothing to do with Bitcoin directly, but indirectly it does. Because the decentralization of not having one person have power over something, that they could shut you down and shut you out, that's where it gets tricky, right? And when you talked about the convoy that blocked in Canada, isn't it interesting, Paul, that no one's really talking about that anymore? And they're not talking about it because one technical thing about Bitcoin. You can't shut it down. It's transparent. You can't shut it down. It's operated by nodes. If you were to shut it down, you would have to have power over 51% of the network. And those nodes are scattered all over the world, which makes a consensus. You need agreement in order to shut it down. But that's why they were able to support that convoy. But that's also why, in my humble opinion, the government's not talking about it anymore, because in essence, they keep on talking about it, not knowing the technology. They're going to look like fools. Because that particular technology of Bitcoin is a Bitcoin maxi and blockchain agnostic. You clearly could see that technology is a technological cryptographic problem to solve that's algorithmically being solved by computers. That's the challenge. No human intervention will be possible, which will keep it probably as equitably fair, because as a chainless certified person in cryptocurrency myself, everything's transparent. You could find it. And to your point, Paul, you're going to move that type of money. You're going to plummet an exchange. Do you see what I'm saying, Paul?
Yeah.
You're going to plummet an exchange. You try to move 100 million, you try to move 5 billion, you are going to plummet an exchange's liquidity. So that's stupidity. That's like nonsense. That's like foolery. How do you even think that that's possible? And if you deal with money, how do you think that's possible? If you know anything about liquidity, that is not possible, right? So if you see that, you just said it, Paul, what's happening in Russia are smart Russians that don't want to lose their livelihood at the retail level, which means when that happened, Paul, back in February when the war started, we're now a month and a half in, 6 weeks in, about 2-3 weeks ago, watching the charts for Bitcoin, I saw something very interesting because I look at the on-chain analytics. I saw something very interesting that I hadn't seen in a while. The retail inflow. The amount of increase between wallets that are holding 0.1 Bitcoin and 100 Bitcoin increased. That was only about $400 to almost $500,000. That's it. So if I were to look at that and I would assess it as a strategist and as someone that's been in the space for almost 10 years, I would look at the patterns and the behaviors, which means those Russian people that don't want to get stuck with the ruble need to exchange it to Bitcoin in order for them to survive. They're not stupid. They're very intelligent. My top 4 countries when I look for offshore and onshore resources, let's say them nice and no particular order. Belarus, Russia, Ukraine, Macedonia. Need I go on? So these people are really talented when it comes to tech. I think it would behoove us to understand it better instead of naysaying it and trying to knock it down, because what will happen is we will lose the innovative edge. And that's what Biden realized. He'll lose a digital innovation edge if he starts to regulate and block it. And unfortunately, England is on that path, but so is the EU, which is making me a little bit concerned, because as a smart contract developer and soon to be smart contract auditor, that bill in the United States was going after me too. I'm like, wait a second, wait, I'm working. This is my livelihood. How are you going to tell me I can't do my job and it's illegal? That makes no sense. So that's why the wording has to be very, very careful, and we need to educate these people in the ministries of finance and digital innovation in the EU as well, because, BRIC exit, the EU is now kind of taking on an animal of their own. So I think this is where it's going to be very interesting to watch.
Just to break down a couple of those points, Amy, for the listeners, because we try to make it as technically uncomplex as possible.
Yannicka, I know.
Yeah, the way liquidity is, the way crypto's transacted, for anybody that doesn't know this, is crypto assets are traded in pairs. So they're paired with an asset, and there's a liquidity pool, which is effectively a big pot of money, but the liquidity pools are in pairs. So for instance, if we had a Winners Club token, let's call it that, and we paired our Winners Club token with Ethereum, in our liquidity pool, we would have to have, say, 1,000, to keep the maths nice and simple, 1,000 Winners Club tokens and 1,000 Ethereum. So 1 would equal 1, basically. So if somebody buys a Winners Club tokens, that will be taken from the liquidity pool when it's on an exchange, and they would put Ethereum into the liquidity pool. So one account would be topped up and one would be taken out. So what Amy was basically saying, if somebody was to try to move or cash out, so to speak, or transfer extreme amounts of cryptocurrency through an exchange, they would only be, it would absolutely crash the size of the liquidity pool that sits on that exchange. So firstly, the transaction would probably be blocked anyway, but secondly, it just wouldn't be possible to do it. And I've actually just done some Googling while you was talking, and don't hold me to this, but it was the first answer that come up. So the largest liquidity pool that's held with Binance, which is the largest sort of trading exchange out there, is 300 million. So,
and Paul, it sits against Tether, which is a little bit frightening, and it's in 3 to 5 wallets. That makes me a little bit concerned about Binance and CZ, but at the same token, as we've been speaking about them this ad nauseum over the past year and a half on Clubhouse, that is a very interesting animal in itself. And you, who has a deeper understanding of the liquidity, which I took notes because that was probably the easiest I've ever heard it explained. So high five, sending you tons of flowers, maybe not so many, but tons of flowers. That's something interesting for people to wrap themselves around, for sure.
Yeah, so the point...
Note to self, episode for you to do later. Yeah, I'll just sit here for the banter.
So the point being is you couldn't move substantial amounts of money anyway, because you would absolutely crush and destroy the exchanges, because they're not that big in trading volume. I think the biggest, the underbelly of all of this, the undercurrent, is that there's so many industries being disrupted. So then you've got so many lobbyists at lobbying various members of parliament on Congress and European Parliament and all that type of stuff. There was another article interesting that came out yesterday. The European Union have tried to push through, which looks like it will get rejected anyway, but it's just the start of it, isn't it? They've tried to push through. So they're trying to attack blockchain from many different angles, right? So there's 2 things to note here. European Parliament have tried to push through legislation that effectively bans proof of work, which for ease of understanding is cryptocurrency mining. So it's the protocol that makes mining work, proof of work.
Oh, okay.
So the argument is that the energy usage of crypto mining is unsustainable and huge, right? So that's the narrative that people will tell you.
Yeah.
But how much energy do data centers use around the world?
Yeah.
Nobody works that out. Yeah. How much energy does Amazon use with all their plants and their facilities? How much energy do governments use? Nobody compares the two. It's a bit like when COVID was happening, wasn't it? You was seeing a number that was given to you about the amount of deaths that were happening with COVID, but that wasn't being compared to or put on a screen with all of the other causes of death that were happening at the same time to put it in context. Yeah. So the argument here is, well, let's attack blockchain from all different sides. Proof of work, attack that. If we stop that, we shut down a big proportion of how blockchain works at the moment. So let's try and put legislation through to ban crypto mining. Well, that legislation won't in this current form is not going to be accepted, but it could be adjusted in some way. So they're taking, but this is lobbyists, isn't it? It's lobbyists in the background that can see that their industry and sectors are going to be disrupted hugely. So let's attempt to try and shut it down. It's far too big to be able to do that now. You're not going to be able to do that. And on the point of digital currencies, so the UK, and this goes to show, and I've said this before, probably about a year ago, I think it was, the UK's attitude towards it. So the UK commissioned a panel.
Oh, you told me
like Joe Biden's done now. He's commissioned a panel of his key people to go and spend 500 days to really investigate crypto and come back to him and say, right, this is what we found. The UK, in whether it was virtue signalling or not, they assembled a panel. I don't have the dates to me, but it was last year because I remember us being in the old studio. They assembled a panel of people, and they put the governor of the Bank of England, the PA of the governor's Bank of England on the panel, and some lords from the House of Lords. Okay, no one from a crypto space, no one with a blockchain background, nobody that understands that sector. And that was the panel of people that done a report to say whether or not the UK should explore a central bank digital currency. And do you know what their finding was? Surprise, surprise. It's too risky and it would be of no use to the UK. So that was their outcome. So basically, keep the status quo exactly the same as it is. Forget about all of that stuff going on, and we'll just continue to do what we're doing.
No surprise, really, is there?
It will be turbulent times to come, and I think this attempt in legislation to try and shut down as much of it as possible will continue. But I think it's gone way past the point of being able to be stopped. But they'll prevent it for a long time.
I believe also the challenge too is that people have this misconstrued perception of Bitcoin being a way to hide money or do nefarious stuff, but the dollar still has more nefarious things happening with it. So I think that this is where, when people talk about the dark web, which is the underbelly of the internet, right, where you don't want to go unchaperoned, but that is where people are getting, their mixed messages and fear. There's a lot of fear, but I think it was just said very eloquently. Blockchain and cryptocurrency and decentralized ledger technology is disrupting a lot of industries, and the number for the financial services industry is 41%. So it's like putting water or something on a gremlin after 12 a.m. You know what I'm saying? They're very scared their jobs are going to become irrelevant, but they need to sort of just find a way to remain relevant by involving themselves in the space, as opposed to just leaning back and kind of saying, all right, well, we're just going to take a status quo approach, or we're just going to take back and lean back and not do anything, because you become obsolete that way. And, we saw this with what was something that went obsolete, Blockbuster, video, renting VHS and betas. It was the same thing. People thought Netflix wouldn't make it. People thought email was never going to survive. Remember when people never wanted to use email? And now look at where we are with email. I don't even think people send snail mail anymore. But it still exists, and I think that the future is going to be a hybrid of some sort, but at some point it's going to be dominated by the digital space, because it's something that could be managed. And, the reality is right now what's happening with China and Russia and, Latin America and Africa, countries are now realizing that, when the IMF said what they said to El Salvador and made them feel really stupid and shamed them and also tried to bully them into continuing with the IMF, or they wouldn't receive their loan, Bukele said, okay, fine. And he put a bond of Bitcoin that was oversold for 500 million. So literally the same amount of the loan that he would have gotten from IMF, he received that in Bitcoin. So this is where it gets very, very tricky. And the challenge here, which I am going to speak to the women in the audience and followed by the speakers, is a statistic, was a quote from an article that came out in the Volkskrant, and FD, which is a financial paper here. And I have an MBA in entrepreneurs and finance, so let's just kind of put that into perspective. And I've worked freelance with SAP for about 20 years now on global implementations worldwide. So let's just listen to this sentence, especially for my women. Please perk up, because this is important to hear this statement, which is why I do what I do. According to a recent study published by the Volkskrant and FD, women in the Netherlands don't have enough confidence in their competency to make sound financial decisions. This is caused by less financial knowledge and exposure to financial instruments and understanding and products compared to men. According to the OECD, financial literacy is needed in managing finances, choosing financial services and products, as well as becoming an entrepreneur, which I've been for the past 25 years. But that is also how I've learned to do balance sheets, cash flow, profit and loss statements, because I've had to learn by the seat of my pants. But that's also how I learned the depth of crypto, because I just learned them together. And that's the challenge, is that for every woman in the stage, for every woman following me, for every woman literally in the followed by speakers section, we need to get more women financially literate, especially even more now in the digital space, because we have to raise our confidence and our competency, and it doesn't have to be at the level of the masculine, it just has to be at the level of a feminine, because at the end of the day, 63% of the world's consumers are women. When the groceries are being done, when the kids' christenings are being, and events are being planned, when the dry cleaning and all that, when all of the household elements are being done, that is financially managing money. It is. But women don't see that as valuable because, unfortunately, not going to bring up the slap thing, but unfortunately, if the men would appreciate more that that is financial and treat us more as equals of understanding, maybe we would have a more opportunity, that we could have some more acceptance in the space. Because if I were to ask the question to the folks in the UK, of all those lords and all those folks on that panel, how many women were on that panel?
Yeah, 0, I think.
Very good point.
Here to Amy. Amy.
I flipping love Amy.
Just
great.
on the point of blockchain laundering.
She's my new favourite. You shouldn't have favourites, but she's my favourite.
Some more now.
Other than Michelle.
Like a female version of Ashley.
Oh, don't give yourself that. Don't give yourself that badge of dishonour. Come on. Think of yourself higher than that. Come on.
On the money laundering part,
I'll just wear my crypto queen title.
Okay, we'll call you the crypto queen. You can have that.
On the money laundering part, by the IMF's International Monetary Fund, actually, for anybody that doesn't know, by their own their own assessments, about 4 trillion a year. 4 trillion a year is laundered through the top 5 banks in the world. 4 trillion a year.
And it's literally.
But blockchain's a bad guy.
Yeah.
Exactly. Let's kind of highlight, what are those 5 banks? I bet Deutsche Bank is up there. I bet HSBC is up there.
Yep.
I bet Bank of America is up there. I bet Lloyd's of London is up there.
Yep.
RBS is up there.
4 trillion a year of money laundering by their own estimate through the top 5 banks in the world, yet it's all Bitcoin's fault. Anyway, so we have a quick reset and
then
we'll open to some questions. Shall we open the floor?
That.
I've moved the mixing desk to the wrong screen. Bear with me. There we go. It's back. We'll be back after this.
You are listening to Breakfast with Winners. Exclusive content, direct from the Winners Club. If you are enjoying the conversation, click on the green Monopoly house at the top of the screen right now and join the thousands of winners already in our community. For even more actionable content and powerful lessons, download the free companion app now. Just search for the Winners Club in the App Store or Google Play. For more information about the Winners Club and how to become part of our growing community, head to thewinnersclub.club. Now, back to the show.
So, good morning, gang, and welcome back to the show indeed. If you haven't yet done so, please adhere to the fancy voiceover lady's instructions. Go to the top of the room right now, click onto the green little looking Monopoly house, and you can become a member of the Winners Club. 40,300 other members in there who will get notified every time that we go live. And we normally go live every day at 6:30 a.m. until 9 a.m. UK time. Although
normally we do. There's no normal about it.
Well, yeah, we do. Well,
it's been every day for 14 months.
That's true. But we might be doing some other stuff as well, some other rooms, some special rooms, because we're launching some interesting stuff. Paul mentioned earlier the Winners Club NFT. By the way, do not go Googling it, because somebody's bought Winners Club NFT as a Google ad word, and it looks very, very similar to our branding, doesn't it? It is not us, though.
Which means someone's getting ready to scam. So please be aware of that.
Yeah,
it's
100%.
a great proactive way to understand and really follow the greenhouse above and just stay in contact, because clearly when you will drop your NFT, it should be done, in my humble opinion, through your own club, through a closed club, so that you have control and management over the drop. It's very important to do that, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, absolutely right. So we are talking this morning all things on a Wednesday or a Thursday. Depends which day of the week we're going to do it, but we normally, at least once a week, we love to cover off the Understanding Crypto Room, which is also a podcast that has been spawned from these conversations. It's an iTunes top 10 podcast. I don't want to keep banging on about it, guys, but we're quite big. We're quite big internationally. Currently,
we'll have to get you a trophy cabinet for all those podcasts that have got into the top 10.
I'm having a great week of it, though, to be fair. 241 in France. We're down 20 in Ghana. We're down 1 in Uganda. We're up 1 in Ghana, though. So we're down in Uganda, but we're up in Ghana. So, I mean, you win some, you lose some. That's my take on it from there. We're up 6 in the UK. And in Egypt, one of the charts in Egypt, they liked us and now they don't. So there you go. You win some, you lose some. It is what it is. C'est la vie. Anyway, great to have you guys tuned in with us. And if you want to go and check out this conversation in more depth, go out and click onto the link at the top of the room right now. Understanding Crypto. This week on the show, we talk about crypto asset ownership. We talk about decentralization, DeFi, and what it means alongside the current sanctions, etc.
We've got really fascinating. Has he confirmed to you this? My new sort of
which one?
About the cyclicity of centralization and decentralization. No, you're looking.
Oh, the financial historian.
Yeah.
No, he hasn't confirmed yet.
Okay.
The other guy, the DAO guy has though.
Okay.
So yeah, we've got some great. Basically, me and Paul, when we're not talking about crypto to each other, we're basically listening to other people talk about crypto on various podcasts, and then we basically hijack the guests of those podcasts and go, would you like to come onto the Clubhouse room? And we've got some really cool people lined up coming up very, very shortly. So we've got some proper experts in their field, which is going to be great.
It's really funny. My list of people, if you said to me who you admire or follow over the last sort of 10 months, has changed so much. Yeah. So much. Funny. Interesting.
Like nerdy little Eastern European geeks now. Like, I love that guy. That guy's a rock star. Forget the actual rock.
Oh my God, they're so much fun listening to the Eastern Europeans when they talk about crypto. They're so intelligent, and I gain so much knowledge from them. I love them. Love. Sorry, I just had to share that.
It's some really, really interesting people doing some interesting stuff right now. Anyway, right, let's get. We've had some people in the back channel who have been asking questions. By the way, guys, if you are enjoying this room, please feel free to share it out. Do us a favour and just don't have to share it on your socials. Just share it to the feed or share the Clubhouse stream of consciousness. So if people are walking around the Clubhouse hallways unknowingly going, what should I do with my time? They should come in here. Tell them that. Tell them why they should come in here. And also the chat is open. Just be mindful in there. There are some people in there who will come in and try and spam people. So be careful in there, people, and do not click any links and never give away your information from anyone who touches base with you on social media. There you go. There are all the health warnings done and dusted. Right, so Nichelle wanted to ask a question. Nichelle, Shelly, we're coming to you.
Morning. Thanks very much, Amy. Brilliant knowledge as ever. Love it. I'd love that link if you could send it to me, because SAP are one of our biggest clients, and we often have controversial discussions with the teams that we train around D&I and equality. So I'd love to bring that up. And
that was from. Thank you for that. That was from the Volkskrant. I'll find the article for you, because I'm actually looking to build in IRL. I actually want to make a hub of women around this in Europe, because this is where women need to bring up their financial literacy around digital assets, and they need to be able to feel comfortable, and also bringing in men that are supportive of it as well, because who was it, Paul, or who was saying the explanation of liquidity?
Paul, it was me.
Yeah, Paul, like seriously, man, I'll just buy you a beer next time I'm in London. Because at the end of the day, that was so well done in that one sentence. But those are the morsels that women need to hear first and then be given the depth of technical. And the challenge is that we tend to ask tons of questions. So that's also why I really love this space, because I have the patience of a saint. And I love answering questions. So who's ever got any, I'm happy to take some on.
Awesome stuff. Right, Nichelle, go for it. You have a question.
I do have a question. I was in a room last night with Carol and had a contact of mine on there. I think James, you put.
He was great. Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. Whilst doing your recycling.
I was doing. Yeah, Nichelle said, "Hey, do you want to come up and ask a question?" I was like, "I'm currently doing the bins, but thanks."
But it was really interesting. Talking about people trying to shut down stuff. He's got ABTA on board and Flight Centre and Hayes Travel and Amex. So he basically has a travel industry platform where buyers and sellers can trade through crypto by securing your cruise, or your holiday or whatever. That's very basically what he does. So he's created this platform where in the travel industry you can use crypto and when you've got people like ABTA and Amex and Flight Centre and Hayes Travel all on board, that's going places. You're not going to be able to shut that down.
Good travel pun. Good travel pun there. Going places. Any other puns you got there?
No, I'm not.
He's set to sail to great heights. He's going to soar to success. No, you done?
No, I'm done. Thanks. But also, on the banking thing, and I know Amy knows this, Deutsche Bank are 7,500% in debt than they have money on deposit. So if everybody went to the bank and went, can I just have all my, 5 grand out, 10 grand out, like they'd be shut down. So that's what
Nichelle. Oof, that was a spicy statement, but very, very true. And that spicy statement is why women, in my opinion, as well as in Harvard's, women are a little bit better at finance because we tend to find things out because we dig deep. And that digging deep is what's required in this space because we need to go down those rabbit holes so that we could have the most authentic answer, right?
Yeah, but also then that's linked to when you have panels like Paul had just said that are commissioned to try and work out, what's going on in the crypto world with no experts and no women in there. And then they find out stuff, we've all seen Westwood and all that sort of stuff going on in the background of the White House. It's kind of like we don't want the masses finding out about that. So what is the narrative we're putting out there? That's where the media come in. That's where the media change the narrative. And that's where everyone goes, oh, okay, well, if the media and the government are saying it must be true. But no, you need to go down those rabbit holes and you need to start opening up and being 4D in your vision to sort of go, what's happening over here and over here? And this is what industries are doing. And clearly the governments are panicking. And that's why all of this stuff is kind of being stalled and there's resistance to it. But my question was, Amy, you said something, or it might have been Paul, where you said Binance sits alongside Tether. Now, I know what Binance does, but when you say it sits alongside Tether, what do you mean?
Well, basically, this is where Paul is going to help me answer this because Paul understands liquidity. Paul, Tether is the backing to the Binance.com exchange, okay? Now, when someone does a trade, you have pairs. Remember what you just said? Now, if you have ETH trading against USDT, who's backing USDT? What is USDT? Now you see my question for you, Paul, right? What actually is, because USDT Tether, that's what, dollars? I mean, who has that money? Is that money from another country? Because there's a lot of discussion about this for the past 4 or 5 years, that this is an interesting place because USDT is being, the largest wallets of Binance.com are held by 3 to 4 wallets. You could see them publicly if you know what to look for, and you'll see that they hold Tether, but then you're wondering, wait a second, 4 people holding these wallets? Who are these 4 people? You see what I'm saying? So there is not a lot of transparency in that piece, and the Tether discussion is the fact that you can actually have this pair that will fluctuate up and down, but then you still are trying to figure out, is USDT dollars? Or is USDT something else? You see what I'm saying? There's a question mark at what USD, it's not USD. Do you see what I'm saying? It's not USD. So what is it backed by? That's what I have a question. So for example, Paul.
Yeah,
Paul,
my head's still trying to wrap around the question.
I'll give you the other piece of it. Terra Luna, Do Kwon, CEO of Terra Luna, founder of Terra Luna, is backing UST, US Terra, TERRA, with Bitcoin. So the pair that will come out of there will be UST/BTC. Do you see what I'm saying? He's going to back the value. So if you have that winner, he's going to back his value of UST tokens with Bitcoin. That's why he's acquiring 10 billion worth of Bitcoin. And that's also why it's driving Bitcoin up, right? Because he wants to capture 10 billion worth of Bitcoin. And he's already captured, I believe, almost 2 billion worth of Bitcoin recently. So you're seeing that he's trying to secure more Bitcoin to back up his purse. So my question is, what is backing up the purse of Binance?
Yeah, that's a very good question and a hard one to answer. So Nichelle,
that's why I put it to you.
Yeah, well, I can't, but Nichelle, so the way a normal cryptocurrency works, and so you've got a normal cryptocurrency, and then you've got stable coins, which is what we've just sort of been talking about in terms of Tether and USDC and other ones like that. So a normal cryptocurrency, and again, I'll go back to the analogy of us launching our own cryptocurrency. It would have to be linked to something else to provide the value. So effectively, for 1,000 Winners Club tokens, if we linked our token to Ethereum, or we could link it to Bitcoin, we could link it to what we could link it to something else. We could pair it with anything we wanted with another cryptocurrency. But effectively, in order for that to be exchanged publicly, i.e., you going onto an open exchange and saying, "I want to buy a Winners Club token." Like I explained, for every 1,000 Winners Club tokens, we'd have to have 1,000 Ethereum. And then when you buy a Winners Club token, that means there's less Winners Club tokens in the liquidity pool. So therefore, the value in theory goes up of the Winners Club token, because there's less in the liquidity pool, but there's more Ethereum in the liquidity pool, because you've put Ethereum into a liquidity pool and you've taken out Winners Club tokens. So if you was to then go and sell lots of Winners Club tokens, the reverse would happen. You would take Ethereum out of the liquidity pool and you would put more Winners Club tokens back into the liquidity pool. So therefore, there would be more Winners Club tokens in the pool than Ethereum. So the Winners Club token would be worth less. So when that happens, in very simplistic terms, you have really high amounts of fluctuation, which is what we see in most cryptocurrencies. They go up and down a lot because there's a lot in there. You see this with a lot of creator coins that were created on platforms like Rally and stuff like that, where that coin goes up and down in value quite a lot. And it's because of that liquidity pool. When people sell the currency, they take another currency and the liquidity pool fluctuates, and that shows itself in the price going up or down quite erratically. With stable coins, they are, like Amy said, supposed to be linked to, so that they're a type of cryptocurrency that rely on, they get the value of the basis of its value from another asset, usually a fiat currency, or it could be other assets like precious metals or something like that. They'll be backed or linked to something else, not another cryptocurrency. But the question is, are they? That's what we're saying there, isn't it? Are they actually backed and backed up by something else? In USDC, which is a stable coin, is that backed by dollars? Good question. I don't know how to answer that, Amy, but you could go down these rabbit holes a lot, couldn't you? And this,
can I jump in as well? This is Jennifer.
Go, Jennifer. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. First of all, Amy, I adore you. You know, you're a fountain for more women in Web3. And Nichelle, same. So I wanted to say from both, like, because with my family office, we've been investing in not just crypto hedge funds, but crypto for like, not just like in the past year or two, but like several years back, right? And as someone who's invested in Web3 platforms, I understand the like importance of people being able to use it in the use case sort of daily. So one thing I do, because like I am still freaked out about crypto, unless I'm just I just changed my profile picture so you guys can see, like, and there's someone asking in the chat, why is this becoming women dominated? Well, it should be, because actually the best performing
NFTs, like in the past 2 months, actually have been very women centric, and women are outperformers in the area. So I'm a member of a community called Satoshi Women, which is where we're like onboarding regular women. I think it's very important to have like financial inclusion, but also they're the ones who actually powered my previous unicorns, including like e-commerce. And the only reason why certain tokens might have more liquidity and sort of more stability is not just because it might be tied to something, but also because of the people who are underlying, whether they're doxed or undoxed. If you know, for example, like, for example, I one of the reasons how I'm able to accumulate more crypto is instead of using cashback credit cards, I've been using crypto back credit cards. I use Wirex, I use my crypto.com card, for example. Binance isn't always accessible out in Asia, Hong Kong, where I'm based. So I find my other ways. But I think it's really important that like we talk about it from like, individual retail investor standpoint as well as institutional standpoint. So I thank also Amy for talking about the various trades, but also the other thing to look for and that I would ask for the Winners Club token is the eventual like market cap, because it's really important that there is liquidity in and out and the perceived ability to transact easily in and out. That's sort of what I would posit. Thanks.
Brilliant. Thanks, Jennifer. What are you doing? You look in deep concentration, James, over there.
Just responding to that guy, Jay, in the chat.
Oh, okay. Why is Jay telling us we can make £1 million overnight?
No. He's just asking why it's a women-centered room. I'm just telling him about our powerful community of females that we have here. I'm just going to tell Jay a few facts.
With all due respect, Michelle asked the question to me, and I put the ball to Paul to support. And I think that's the key about dialogue. It should not be just echo chamber of masculine and male voices. And thank you, Jennifer and Michelle and Carol and Ella and Elaine and all the women that are on this Winners Club stage, because the gentlemen here are really fair and equitable. And with all due respect, I'll be one of the spicy ones. If there's a gentleman that has a problem with it in the back channel, well then, okay, bring it to let's stop hiding behind the back channel and bring up what your problem is over that. Because there's no need to have drama over the fact that there's a woman speaking, because this is the problem of what it, in essence, tries to intimidate women that have an understanding of finance and tech, simply because we don't sound the way that maybe someone wants us to be sounding. So thank you, gentlemen, especially the Winners Club, for allowing me to speak and for allowing all the other women to ask their questions. And yes, it's just simple respect, and we've literally just gotten very, very comfortable with disrespect in our society. So I'm here to sort of at least level that out, and I love the fact that the spiciness of the Winners Club, the guys, I love that you just like kind of shut down the trolls in the chat and just bounce them from the room. I'm right there with you.
I appreciate these guys so much. Amy, also Paul and James actually had me on a couple of weeks back talking about, what I see for like crypto and blockchain and NFT and metaverse this year. So they have always been very inclusive and champions of women. So I really appreciate, making sure that the stage is always, fair and equitable and inclusive of a proper dialogue. Appreciate all of you.
Thank you, guys.
I love the fact we're using the word spicy a lot. Just to give some context in case people are driving or whatever. I've just Jay's comment. Well, I know that it might just have been a genuine question about why it's becoming a woman-centered room, and I've just simply stated back that Jay, the beauty of Clubhouse rooms is that they can go in any and every direction based on the interest of the audience in real time. We happen to have a community of powerful female entrepreneurs here who happen to be driving the narrative this morning. And hopefully that answers that question. If it happened to be a load of blokes chatting about it, then it'd be a blokey room. And it's not. So there we go.
Anyway, the point of these crypto rooms is to have, firstly, great conversation, but secondly, to try to get a panel of people that understand actually what's going on, yes, and try to help you with your knowledge and your understanding, and here to serve and answer any questions around blockchain, Web3, metaverse, cryptocurrencies, NFTs, blah, 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 all of that stuff. So if you have a question, get it ready, and you're more than welcome to answer it. Ask it, and we will attempt to answer it. There's not all questions that we will be able to answer, but I'm sure we can have a go at most of them.
To be fair, I can fill for time and you can Google stuff, so we've got most of it covered, haven't we? I thought we'll be good to go.
You guys are a hot mess for sure.
Hey, you can leave it there. Stop with your spicy attitude. I'm going to use the word spicy to pull all down.
On the crypto crime thing, actually, as well, I'm going to give, because I done this, and it's a good read if you've got time. So have a look for the 2022 crypto crime report. Just Google that.
Oh, I can't wait to have a look at that.
No, it's quite good reading if you've got some time. So you have to stick your email address and register to download it, but download it and go and have a look. And it's got some interesting facts and figures around crypto crime. Worth a look. Anyway, so we take some more questions.
This page is asking me to give them a 12 character code. Should I do that?
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Never do that. Next week's episode of the Understanding Crypto podcast actually breaks down what happened when we got hacked. So
mugs.
There we go. Yeah. Proper mugs.
Oh.
It's so funny. Yesterday,
that was worse. I had to top back up.
Yes.
They
put more cash into it.
Oh, they stole our gas fees. So we had an Ethereum wallet that just had enough money to do some gas fees for various transactions, and somebody got into it and stole my gas fees. But I had to top it up yesterday, which was annoying. Yeah,
brilliant. Absolutely. Well, we'll be breaking it down next week, and thanks to Jay for he's come back into the chat with just explaining his comment, which is all good.
So that report you're looking for, if people are asking, is the Chainalyst report. So it's the Chainalyst 2022 crypto crime report. Google that and have a little look. Register or put your email address in, because it's like I'm sure it's a lead magnet, but.
It looks like Matt Wilson. This has got Matt Wilson written all over it.
It's got some good facts and figures in it. Go and have a look.
Yeah, awesome stuff. Right, has anybody got any questions that they would like to ask about crypto? As you can hear, we've got a panel of various and varied expertise across the crypto space. If you're interested in this world of Web3, the whole thing of, by the way, guys, the whole premise of sort of the content and the conversation that we have around Web3 and crypto in general is aimed at our desire to try and make Web3 as understandable as possible for everyday people. Whether, we are the majority of people, the 40,300 people who are in the Winners Club community. We know this from Clubhouse directly. It's Europe's the most engaged community of entrepreneurs on the social audio platform. That's not our words, that's the words of Clubhouse. But what we wanted to do with Web3 was to make it as understandable for people as possible who are running real proper businesses today. Like, what does the future tech of this ever increasing and very exciting world actually mean today, right now, if you're an entrepreneur and a business owner? So that's the kind of the angle that we're always trying to go with on our content, is to make it, yes, forward focused on what's coming up potentially, but also looking at what can be applied right now in real time today. So if you are a business owner, if you're looking at Web3 applications, if you're looking at what the chain or what crypto could potentially do for your business, then feel free to ask a question. And by the way, if you're in the audience, gang, if you'd like to ask a question, you are also more than welcome. Stick your hand in the air and you can come up on stage and you can ask your question this morning. All that we ask is that you've got your profile filled out so that we can double check who you are. It's such
a having had to do a lot of research in a short space of time to skill ourselves up to a certain level to conduct our own projects. It's such a minefield of information as well, because you can read something somewhere, the following day read something else and be completely conflicted by your views and bounce around in this small little chamber of lots of different views, lots of different technologies and lots of different ways to do the same thing. So it's really, really confusing, which is part of the reason why we done the podcast, wasn't it?
Yeah, 100%. By the way,
and also to break down some of the myths as well. It was funny because you witnessed we jumped onto a Zoom call with somebody, didn't we, the other day, and it got quite not heated, but there was a good debate that opened up on that Zoom call, which it wasn't supposed to. But a lot of this goes back to, like, my theory is, how is this stuff really changing business at the moment?
Yes.
So that debate that you witnessed was about land sales in the metaverse, wasn't it? Where I was like...
Well, you proactively come out and said, you won't see me buying a piece of land next to Snoop Dogg, and you're someone who's actually invested quite a lot of money into quite substantial amounts of actual real-world real estate, and you're like, I don't get the digital real estate thing yet. It's not for me yet. And I had this conversation with a potential podcast collaborator, shall we say, who were very interested in getting quite substantially involved. And I was like, do you know what? Before this conversation goes any further, I need to get my business partner Paul into this chat. I think he'd really enjoy it. Anyway, for whatever reason, within 15 minutes, everyone was having a tear up about the value of land in the metaverse.
Well, but this is the point of the problem, isn't it? So if you talk to a metaverse company, which this was,
yes,
they are heavily invested in what they're trying to sell.
Oh yeah, of course.
But equally, their beliefs are really strong, that the world is going to be a world where we live in the metaverse. But to me, that like in that conversation, there was no balance. There was no like, well, they really believed that everybody was going to be buying plots of land and building houses in the metaverse, and that was going to happen like next week.
Like fully convinced of it as well, weren't they?
Yeah. Almost to a point of being dangerously brainwashed by the fact that we're all going to want to buy plots of land tomorrow because it's kicking off there tomorrow.
Even the argument of it was like, but the technology now you can use it on your phone. You don't need a headset. You could also just look at another human being with your eyes using your face. I don't get where we're going here. But it didn't matter where the conversation...
My answer to him wasn't it? I can see a world where in future that's of value and it would have a real use case. But at the moment, why is it such an urgency to do it?
And he did not have any answers, did he?
Anyway, that's another episode for the podcast, probably. That was an interesting conversation. Right, are you keeping an eye on flashes for questions?
I was, but then I saw there was a chat. There was a question in the background. We'll go to the flashes. Who's flashing there? Who wants to contribute to the...
I'm flashing.
Go on, Jennifer.
Yeah, I wanted to say that I appreciate you guys for also just saying just now that people are not yes, sure, the mass use case, people are not going to be like buying land tomorrow and setting up storefront. I realize that I've always been kind of an early adopter, as we covered in when you guys featured me on your podcast a couple weeks back. So one thing that I believe in is if you guys don't want to buy land or something right this instant, you can play with the tokens part of it, right? So full disclosure, we've invested in metaverses as well as metaverse platforms as well as my multiverse, and one thing that my husband, he's very conservative because we do real estate and hotel and commercial and residential property in real life, right? But he actually bought plots of land in Sandbox and other metaverses a few years back, right? And one of the reasons why is our kids were quite young, but they were already like learning how to code. And then, my kids, as practice, just minted their own NFTs, and they were playing things like Roblox and Minecraft. And those things are actually, people don't realize it, but a lot of games are metaverses, right? So for people who don't want to go and buy actual plots of land and, develop the land and then make a virtual property there and, move their avatars in, even just play a game or buying some tokens in that game or buying things there, that already counts. I just wanted to say
yeah, no. So the background of this debate was we were talking to a potential, I guess, partner sponsor of the podcast, and the topic of this community came up, and he was like, "Oh, right, okay, yeah, well, you could sell everyone a digital plot of land. Everyone should get that." So my argument was, why? You just
you're right.
Articulate to me why we all want that. So his argument was, well, everyone can come and you could have a virtual version of the clubhouse room. And I said, well, it's so there's the theory of it, right? Which is in idealization, is that the right
ideation
word? In ideation is a good idea, okay? But what we know from trying to lead a community like this in volume is that it's difficult enough to get people to come onto Clubhouse. So there were people that were early adopters in Clubhouse, which is a virtual environment, right? We're all talking, we're looking at each other's heads on the screen in an app. So it's an element of a virtual environment. Well, it is a virtual environment. There were elements of people that came on very early into Clubhouse and embraced it, fully understood it, and I guess the early adopters, which most of us are here. And then there's a much larger group of people that just don't understand it and have no interest in understanding it. And it's hard to move those people at mass into Clubhouse. We've tried. We get guests sometimes who have no intention of using Clubhouse or no willing to learn it or understand it. Hence why sometimes guests have to join us via video link in our studio, because that was the only way of overcoming getting the audio from those guests brought into Clubhouse. So now you're going one step further beyond that, and you're saying to people, so not just are you going into a virtual environment, it's audio only, by the way. So you're trying to overcome the barrier of trying to explain to somebody that it's just like a virtual live podcast type radio show. Okay. So so it's difficult enough to articulate that barrier to entry. Now you try to put another barrier in and say, wear a headset, come and see us in the virtual metaverse, in the virtual land, and we can all look at each other's avatar. And you might be dressed like an ape, and I can be dressed like a fish, and he might be dressed like a giraffe, but that's okay. That's absolutely okay for that to happen. Let's all do that. So we do it tomorrow? Let's do it tomorrow. Who's coming?
I'm coming.
Yeah, exactly. It would fall upon deaf ears, wouldn't it? So the barriers to entry and the reality, there's the idea of it all and how we could all operate in a virtual world, and yet there's the reality of trying to mobilise people to actually do it.
Of all the amazing artworks and imagery that's out there right now, you'd be a fish.
I don't know if I'd be a fish.
You'd definitely be a fish.
Maybe, I don't know, with a
squid.
with like a captain's hat or something. I don't quite know.
I realise I might have distracted from the important point you're trying to make then, and sorry for that, but the thing that I took from that bit is that if he could be any digital animal, Apple Crumble would be a fish.
But it's not mainstream, is it? This is the thing. So,
no.
So gaming, yes, so gaming is the most used version of the metaverse, like Jennifer said. How many people play Roblox? How many people play Fortnite? How many people live in Call of Duty in those virtual versions? But again, if you look at mass population, it's quite a small group of people that probably do that. So trying to get this, I don't know, and this is a question, I don't know the answer to this. Would we really sit in a world where we're working virtually and like Mark Zuckerberg's great, the nice polished video when they introduced Meta?
Yes.
Trying to take ownership of the word metaverse, basically. And the video of where he's sitting at his desk and he's looking at all his virtual colleagues sitting around him.
Yeah.
You tried getting a virtual employee to do the work they're supposed to do, by the way. Try that in mass. Right now, practicalities of all sitting at our desk, wearing a shirt, but actually we're in our pants, and trying to get some meaningful engagement from staff, and trying to get it all going, and trying to get them to buy into the technology of, you can just about get somebody to use ClickUp. Let's tell it for what it really is. You can just about get somebody to allocate their tasks properly and correctly in ClickUp. Now tell them they've got to sit in this metaverse and all join us virtually. We're quite a way away from that. Do you agree? Do you think we're quite a way away from that?
Yeah, I think
for the mainstream, for the bulk of people.
Yeah,
there will be early adopters. Don't get me wrong, which are gamers,
yeah,
which will adapt to that really quickly,
yeah,
which will embrace it really quickly. But Dorothy, who does your accounts, who's just about working how to put your accounts into zero for you, she's not coming to join me in the virtual office. She's just not.
Paul, it's Dorothy here. I can't get in.
And I know that's a bad analogy, but somebody that works for my accountant is actually called Dorothy. And she has trouble doing my annual accounts on Xero. And she says, I wish we could just go back to Sage, where you probably don't remember, but Sage used to work in a really console-like approach, and the accounts used to be printed out in the paper that had the dots down the side.
That's right, yeah.
I don't even know the real name for that paper, but
oh my God, my dad used to have that. He was an accountant, so we used to have like loads of those printers in the office. Yeah. They were so noisy, weren't they?
Yeah. So she's still used to working in that world. She's not coming to join me in the virtual office.
She's not coming to Meta.
No, she's not. No. Not anytime
soon. We should throw a launch party when she comes in, though.
I think sometimes we have to just have the balance that it's still so early. Whilst we have the echo chamber of a room with 150 people or so in it, talking about this type of stuff, it's still really early.
Well, what's the adoption of crypto in general is about 3% of the population, and that's like a best case, and those people have probably like got a Coinbase account, maybe opened a wallet, and then maybe put a $5 in it, and then just left it there.
Yeah, that's not to say
majority.
If you can find a use case that really solves a problem and serves a need of your audience, and you can embrace the technology to bring that to reality, then you can be ahead of the curve, and you can definitely do something really, really good in this space at the moment. But it's, what are the, and this was my question to that company that we were speaking to, what is the use case? It's all well and good saying, well, you can come and buy a plot of land for £1,000 or $1,000 or whatever it is, but what is the use case of that? What, apart from being a very speculative investment that could go up and down in value and just treating it as such, what other benefit is there? Because building a virtual conference room that all of the Winners Club can come and see me in, we're still a long way up. They'll do that once, they won't do it a second time.
No, you're probably right. And AD's in the chat saying that she's not alone. I'm with Dorothy. There's also a little conversation that started about which digital animal would you be, and Bob Allen would be a dragon. So if you'd like to let us know which digital animal you'd be, feel free to go to the bottom left-hand corner, put it in the chat, and either use an emoji to represent the digital animal that would represent you in the metaverse, or just let us know. I'm glad this has turned into a serious conversation. Awesome stuff. Right, we have had a question from Jenny. Horsey Jen. Her question is, I bought crypto with Binance early last year. I then put it into my Exodus wallet. So now I can't use my Binance account. I've had to sign up to Coinbase. Do I use it the same way and transfer my money into my Exodus wallet? Oh, so yeah, because you're not allowed to use.
No, but you can. I just think you're not allowed to. You're not allowed to purchase any additional assets, but you can transfer. You can transfer your assets just by putting. You can transfer assets around wallets just by putting in your wallet address and moving them around. So, what was the question? Should she or could she?
Could she?
Yeah, you can. You can. Yeah, you can just move. You can just move assets. Just send them from one wallet to another wallet with the wallet address.
Horsey Jen, are you there? She's not there. She's already I've already transferred. Oh, here you go. No, good morning. Did that answer the question?
Sort of. So I can use. Hang on a moment. I've just come out of a very echoey kitchen.
It sounded like you were in the bath, and I was like, "This is very inappropriate for morning clubhouse." Jeez.
Right. So I've used Binance before to buy it. And then transferred it into a wallet, but I can't even get into my Binance account anymore now because it now wants different type of verification or something, and of course it won't do it. So there's no point. But there's nothing in there, so it's not a problem. So I've had to join up to Coinbase. So we basically want to know. So I've been listening to the podcast, and it breaks everything down, which is great. And I thought, I must have already done this stuff. That's good. I was obviously given some interest, some good advice to begin with. But so essentially, then Coinbase is the same. The Coinbase allows you to buy it and look at it and stuff and do things with it. Apart from your wallet is where you then store it. So essentially I just start using Coinbase, do I, the same way that I used Binance, because I want to buy some more again now.
Yeah, correct. So Coinbase is just an exchange where you swap out your pounds or euros or dollars or whatever you want to swap them out for another asset. So you can buy the actual asset in. So those liquidity pools that we were speaking about, Coinbase have their versions of those, and you can buy any digital asset you want, depending on how you want to. And this is where it gets complicated. If you're just investing into crypto to some extent, and dabbling in that space, then Coinbase have a wallet and the actual, the custodial part of how Coinbase works. You can, if you wanted to, you could leave your assets just sitting within Coinbase's system and have no need to transfer them out anywhere else. If you want to take a bit more ownership of that or interact with the Web3 world a bit more, most of the time how Web3 websites work, and you'll see more and more of these. So as NFTs and digital assets become the way of interacting with Web3, i.e. proof of ownership. So in simplistic terms, you might have an NFT which gives you a membership access to something. The way that would work is you would have to connect your wallet to that membership platform, and then it would verify that you're the holder or the owner of that digital asset, and then therefore it would allow you entry into what's going on. So for that to happen, that asset has to sit in a third party wallet that Web3 website will allow you to connect to. So you'd need to then transfer it from Coinbase out into another form of wallet. Digital wallet. MetaMask is one, Rainbow. There's loads. But you'd have to do that. So it all goes down to how far into the Web3 world do you want to go, and who do you want to interact with. So, for instance, some of the Web3 tech platforms or protocol platforms that you use to do various solutions. So if you was building your own membership platform, saying you needed to mint NFTs or you needed to create your own tokens or do something like that, at some point you'd have to have digital assets in a non-custodial wallet that's yours that can be connected to a Web3 website, and some of those will insist that you have a certain amount of digital currency in that website to be able to cover gas fees and stuff like that. So I think if you're just doing it from an investment point of view, then just leaving it where it is fine. But if you wanted to interact with membership sites and go further down that rabbit hole, then you need to move it. But there's no pressing need to do that unless you're interacting with or you're wanting to buy an NFT or do something that involves you having to have a third-party wallet. Hope that answers your question, Jen.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Awesome stuff. Sorry, who's that? Is that Jennifer?
Add something about the wallet question, which is it's really good if you can actually buy a hardware wallet. Me, my kids, my husband, we all use Trezor and also Ledger. There's different ones you can use, but that way your wallet itself can be portable. Even if you exchange, for example, some people, I know some of my friends in Asia, I used to use Binance a lot, but now some of us use like Kraken and other exchanges, or even if you wanted to tie your wallet, your MetaMask and whatever wallet you might be using. It's really important to have a physical wallet, because that way it's also much more secure. But also, I was also going to say that when you make NFT transactions or you connect to any third-party sites, the other thing you have to do on a regular basis is make sure that any pending transactions or any other things afterwards you delist and you kind of like cut off the continuous sort of feed loop from your wallet, if that makes sense. To just make sure there's no pending things, and that way it'll be much less likely that you get hacked. And then if you have that wallet, make sure you're storing your seed phrase separately. So you might want to store your hardware wallet in a safe or safe deposit box, if those assets you're just kind of buying and holding. And seed phrase don't store it together, because that's like giving someone putting a password right next to a device. It would be not good to do that.
Awesome stuff. Yeah, great add-on there. I think that's a couple of steps further down the line than Horsey Jen is maybe nearly at. By the way, Horsey Jen is a term of endearment. She works in the horse game. But yes.
I'm assuming Jen would definitely be a horse in the virtual world. I
imagine so. There's a lot of Mary's. I can't even work out what that emoji is. I think she's going to be a mouse. Jennifer Cheng is going to be a mouse and a fox. So I guess a mox. Sejao is going to be either a scorpion or a crab. I'm not sure. She strikes me as more scorpion than crab.
There's not a mouse. Paul, I take offense. Me and my I have a bunch of kitten NFTs, and my daughter did a bunch of cat ones for me. It's not a mouse. It's a cat. And horses are good as long as they have a horn. That means they're unicorn, which means they have $1 billion valuation. So I think we should call Horsey Jen unicorn.
How did you look? So I'm insulting James here, Jen. How did you look at those two emojis that Jen has put there and call that a mouse?
What is it then?
It's clearly a cat.
Clearly he doesn't understand what a cat looks like. Clearly he was taking pets away from him.
It is.
There's actually a physical bunny attached to the bunny NFT. So I was a bunny. How is that a mouse? Sorry.
It's clearly a cat.
And there's a cat.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's clearly a cat.
Cat, fox, bunny. Yeah.
But you're saying the cat's the
cat's next to the fox.
Check his coffee.
She's saying that's a mouse.
What is he putting in his coffee?
Anyway, we need to get to the bottom of, more importantly, guys, we need to get to the bottom of, is Sejao going to be a crab or a scorpion? That's
a scorpion. That's not a crab.
Okay, fine. Makes sense. Brandy's going to be a unicorn.
I'm a butterfly.
You're a butterfly. I've gone for an eagle, but I want to be a digital eagle, and I want to call myself a deagle. So I'm going to rebrand eagle to deagle, because then also I can hyphenate the deagle bit. This is well clever, because then it's like DeFi. I've gone so many layers deep on. No, you can't mock me for this. All right. Becca has gone for. Oh, I thought she'd gone for a blackcurrant. No, she hasn't. She's gone for a sloth. I like that. Dave's gone for giraffes. I think he's already in the giraffe game. VSG Life has gone for an elephant or a whale. I like that. Respect it. Adie's gone for an eagle. No, she hasn't. She's gone for an owl. Beiju's just gone for a sniper. Standard.
There's a question from Jagdeep, which actually, this is a good question, actually. So Jagdeep's put in the chat, when will Web3 go live? It sort of is. There is no like...
It sort of is, but it sort of never will be.
There's no switchover date, like when terrestrial TV went to digital. Do you remember that? When in the UK, terrestrial TV switched to digital and everyone thought the world was going to end.
Yeah.
Or when the
36 channels.
When the clock, was it the year 2000, year 2K, when everyone thought the computers were going to end?
That's right, yeah. I was convinced that all of the cash machines were going to spit money out, so I stood in Leicester Square.
Was you really?
Yeah, next to a cash machine just in case.
That doesn't surprise me, actually.
It was a bad night all round, to be fair. that New Year's Eve.
Was you there for midnight? Like 1 minute past, thinking, was there more people there with you?
Yeah, it was like packed. It was central London, like on the Millennium. Everyone thought like the world's going to end or whatever. And I was just like, made sure I was near a cash machine. I had one eye on it.
So, Jagdeep, there is no day when the blockchain god switches a switch and we go from Web 2 to Web 3. But as websites want you to... So the Web 3 part is obviously the blockchain decentralization version of the internet, okay? So the way you interact with Web 3 websites. So instead of in Web 2, probably the best way to describe it, in traditionally we would interact with websites, membership sites, platforms with username and passwords. So you'd put your username in, you'd put your password in, right? The way that Web3 works is you're going to interact with your digital wallet, which is going to be, your digital assets are going to be your proof of ownership for access and various bits and pieces. So that's the sort of the difference, really. So we're there now. If you're into this world or you're looking at various Web3 solutions, you will be asked to do that anyway at the moment. and funny enough, not so long into the future, you'll be asked to do that with the Winners Club as well.
Oh, you keep seeding this. You got to tell people more about what's going on.
I think I'll be taught by the best, eh?
But there you go.
I haven't, by the way. But I'm just saying. Anyway, so we have a quick, it's 8 o'clock on the dot, nearly 7:59. We have a quick reset, and then we'll come back for some more questions.
Yeah, we're also gonna get down to some more animals as well, guys, because there's been a lot of animal updates. Hit the jingle. We'll come back after this.
You are listening to Breakfast with Winners. Exclusive content direct from the Winners Club. If you are enjoying the conversation, click on the green Monopoly house at the top of the screen right now and join the thousands of winners already in our community. For even more actionable content and powerful lessons, download the free companion app now. Just search for the Winners Club in the App Store or Google Play. For more information about the Winners Club and how to become part of our growing community, head to thewinnersclub.club. Now, back to the show.
Back to the show indeed. And yes, gang, if you're here for the first time, please do go and adhere to the rules and regulations that the fancy voiceover lady has just given you. Click onto the little green Monopoly house, because we're going to definitely be with what we're launching with regards to our own Winners Club project. We will definitely be doing that as a live launch only to members. So you're going to need to become a member to hear about that before it goes live to the public.
But before you start, if you look at the chat now, Jules is definitely a cat. Okay? Lady Jules is a cat, not a bunny rabbit.
See,
That's a cat.
Was a rabbit. This is Lady Jules.
It's a rabbit. See?
Yes. Thank you.
See, this is what the challenge is, working with idiots. That's a rabbit, right? A rabbit with a love heart. Marie's gone for a ladybird. Best comment. Carl's gone for a duck, unexpected. Jagdeep's gone for. I'm going to go tiger.
This is not the room for because it would obviously not be great listening. It would take too much time. But yeah, I'd love to hear the explanations from everybody as to why they chose those animals.
What's your spirit animal? Yeah, I like that.
Now's not the time or place. So don't do that.
Comment of the day, though. Comment of the day. Oh, Marsha over delivering. She was going to be either a turtle, a horse, or a monkey. I'm afraid you got to choose one, Marsha. Don't be greedy. But comment of the day.
Or a cross of all of them.
Oh yeah, that would be a weird hybrid, wouldn't it? Comment of the day. We were talking about TV a minute ago. Freya just said, my grandma didn't like pausing the TV because she thought that everyone else would know it was her. Like everyone else in the world, she thought she was pausing the TV for everybody else, I think. Grandma's a legend.
I've just got that. So when she pressed pause, the world paused.
It would stop for everybody. Is that
Brilliant.
Freya? Are you there? Is that Brilliant. What your nan thought?
Yeah, so I and she was like, so I was watching GMTV and I made a cup of tea. Did it let everyone know that it was Jackie that paused the live TV? And I was like, Grandma, no, it's for you, it's fine. And she was like, oh, wow, I thought it was live.
Imagine if you had that kind of power to just like pause live TV.
On a separate note, though, my kids don't, and I've tried to explain it. My eldest is like 13 and she's relatively intelligent. They do not get the concept of live TV. It's just bypassed them completely.
Yeah.
So
I'm not surprised.
Adverts, Dad, forward the adverts.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't work like that. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
They just don't understand. We watch very little. Like most families, probably it's either Disney Plus, Netflix, on demand on Sky, of one of the many different TV packages that cost me £350 a month to bloody operate. But you know, we don't watch live TV. So now when you try to sit down and watch something live, which is predominantly football or something like that, they just don't understand
Can't
it.
grasp the concept. My older one, who's 5, and he doesn't spend a lot of time on like digital devices, to be fair. The other day he was like, he's got like a little iPad-y thing, which he plays with once in a while if he's really bored. Only then will it come out. And he's trying, I'm like, what are you doing, dude? And he's like hitting the screen and went, oh, I'm watching YouTube, I can't skip the ad. I'm like, you're 5 years old. He's like, oh, I hate having to watch this advert. And I'm just like, it's so funny. But yeah, the new world that we live in. Right. We have got a genuine and serious question. I'll keep calling her VSG Life. It's Lorna, I think. I might have pronounced that correctly. I might have completely butchered it. Apologies if I have. She said she is, what should I be doing first in order to be introduced to this new world? I live in New York, so I guess that I should be going on to Coinbase.com or something like that for starters. Now, just to caveat this, none of this room should be considered to be financial advice. Please do your own due diligence. Speak to an independent financial advisor, even though they're not independent because they make commission or whatever they sell you. That's a subject for another day. But anyway, take advice from other people other than us. It is what it is. What would you be saying to a newbie?
I would say decide what your risk appetite is, first of all. So how much do you want to throw away? That's the first question. How much, if somebody was to ask you the question today, how much could you afford to throw away out of your window and not be too upset about? So that's the figure that I would say attempt to try and invest in the first instance into some form of crypto asset. And I would say the biggest hurdle to overcome in any investment, if you've held investments before, but particularly for reasons that we explained earlier with liquidity pools, with crypto assets, is the volatility. So how much stuff goes up and down. And you can't really describe that to somebody unless you've owned some digital assets. So I would, for that first like sort of baby step, I would buy one of the, and like I say, this is by no means is this investment advice, but I would buy one of the big, probably 2 currencies, just to get an understanding of get that feeling for ownership a little bit, you know. So buy a bit of Bitcoin or some Ethereum, have them sat in a wallet, work out how to do that, how to move those assets, how to put them into your own wallet, and then how to just get comfortable with the volatility and watch that go up and down. That would be my first sort of baby steps. The other alternative to that is if you like NFTs, for instance, and you've been seeing the hype of NFTs, but you'd have to buy the NFT, you have to set up, say, a Coinbase account. You have to buy some Ethereum, most likely, and have that in your wallet anyway to be able to proceed with that transaction 9 times out of 10. There are some spaces where you can buy them with a debit card, but most of the time you're going to have some Ethereum in a wallet. So you'd have to go through that process anyway. So the first baby step would be, set up an account with an exchange, buy your first digital asset such as Ethereum or blockchain or something like that, have it sitting in your wallet, and just get a feel for how that goes up and down, and how that's affected, how the volatility is affected, and how you cope with that before you go to that next step of then maybe buying more assets or investing some more money. So does that answer your question?
Could I bring in the precursor to that, because I am from New York City?
Go for it.
Because this one might be the buzzkill. The Federal Reserve Bank is in New York City. So basically, you're going to have to really begin to understand what, was that Paul?
It was Paul, yeah.
Paul. It's taking what Paul said and putting a step before that and getting your understanding of the requirements and the regulations in New York. Because New York is one of the 12 states that has some not so fun stuff going on with crypto, where they're not allowing certain accounts. So just be aware of that they're going to KYC heavily in certain states, and one of those states is winner, winner, chicken dinner is New York. So just be aware that if you are residing in New York City, you have to do a bit due diligence on how much you want to be exposed. And Coinbase, Kraken, Gemini would probably be the 3 that I would probably suggest and recommend, because they're regulated, like they're definitely doing KYC and AML. And then from there, the testing that I would suggest would be having a perception that when you're going to be navigating these wallets, you're going to have more than one. And you may have a hot wallet, a cold wallet, and a hot wallet is a wallet that can move, and it's not as safe as a cold wallet, as Jennifer said, the Trezor as a ledger. But the reality right now is you have to maybe have a couple of wallets, and one of those wallets, which is a Web3 wallet, which would be like from your Google Chrome or a Firefox extension, those are the ones that let you buy NFTs a little bit more seamlessly. So if I were to put a suggestion in there, I would say go find an NFT that you like that's under like $100 and go buy it. Have the experience. Paul was absolutely spot on. Have the experience so that you could get a little bit of your fear out of the way. And then from there, move to understanding your risk profile, right? Because at the end of the day, you know, this is a fascinating space. And I mean, I'm a self-taught hedge fund manager. Like I'm literally self-taught because I understand the tech. But those are two roles as well, the hedge fund manager and the asset manager in the digital space are going to change, which means start learning how to navigate in a small little pool of water in the shallow end. Don't throw yourself down the 12-foot and dive from the top. No, because you don't know what's lurking in the water. So there could be like a plateau and you could hit and die. Not to sound so dramatic, but it's a little bit of how you have to look at the space, because there's no one you could call to get your money back. So you really have to understand that play with a small amount of money that is like what you'd spend at the dinner going out with the girls or the guys or whatever. You know, take like $100, $200 and just say, I'm just going to play with this. And that's what my Belarusian and Russian programming teachers taught me. That literally when I was in the crypto space and started, and I was like freaked out like a deer in headlights. But that's how they said it. They're like, look, you gotta dip your toes in the water. And dipping your toes in means before you go to think about something to the depth of what Paul said, because I agree with him 100%, do a little step before that or a sidebar step as well, and find an NFT and OpenSea that you like, and you know, get something cheap, something that's cute. Don't expect to do anything with it other than hold it. And then at least you get the experience, as you said, funding the wallet, getting a wallet started, securing your seed phrase, etc., etc. And all those steps are required in order to understand the space.
Awesome stuff. Great question. Great answers. Thank you very much, Amy, for adding on that extra layer of info there. Right, we are... So we've got quite a few questions in the back channel. By the way, guys, if you want to come up and ask your question rather than sticking it in the back channel, you're more than welcome to come onto the stage if you'd like to. In fact, let's turn off the hand raise.
Can I answer one of the questions too, Paul?
Yeah, go for it.
Jennifer. Okay. I'm going to answer. I saw a question from Mark. He asked about whether staking or mining pools is a way to make money with crypto more stable than trading with crypto. So what I try to do is I try to do a diversified approach. I'm actually really scared. I'm not really good at trading. I'm actually really good at going in really early. So like several years back, going in early, you know, buying some Bitcoins and stuff like that. And then what I did was what you said earlier, baby steps and diversifying. The other thing I do is occasionally I do stake, which stake is basically a fancy way of saying like, you know, buying and holding and accruing or hodling as it were. So some of the tokens I've staked before include like, you know, if I've invested in a certain web NFT platform, for example, sorry, my daughter is like trying to play piano. If I've, for example, hypothetically, if I've invested in Web3 platforms like bigger ones like OpenSea or something like that, then I would go and stake in the other like emerging players. Like for example, Looks Rare, they have a really good staking option. And by staking and by adopting different sort of strategies, as well as having my different fund managers do it for me, that's my way of hedging. That way, if someone is like wrong, not everyone will be wrong at the same time. The other thing I do, so that like not everyone is wrong at the same time, like betting on the different riders and horses as well as riding my own horse, is that I approach, you know, in my early days, I would also, you know, every week I would set a timer or even daily to do a what I call DCA, slowly accruing more stable coin, which would be what you just mentioned, Ethereum and cryptocurrency. The other thing is I love what MA said, and you also said about like maybe buying buying some NFTs or buy an NFT. Don't do that, obviously, with all your savings. Obviously have savings and then invest in other different things. But if you have a tiny bit you want to be more risky with, like fun money, then you can go buy, like you said, something maybe for under $100 or whatever your budget would be. For me, like NFTs, I look at them not as investments, but as collectibles. So if I, for example, really loved a particular artist, and for example, she's working with some organizations I really appreciate, then I would just buy it. And then just hold it. And if I wanted to display it in my public wallet, fine. Otherwise, and if you're lucky enough to like mint several, then the other thing I would do is like, give it to my trusted friends. My daughter likes to pick her own NFTs, for example. And she's been picking them since she was 5. She's 8 now. So just look at it as something to kind of store value. And don't look at it like NFTs like as a huge trading game, because it's very, very, very volatile, even more so than crypto. Okay, I'm going to pass it back to you, Paul.
Awesome stuff. Could we have a Jennifer? Could we have a song from your daughter? You said she's trying to play. She sounded quite cool.
She is 2. I will do a quick song for you guys.
Oh yes.
My other daughter is actually the child prodigy, and I'm going to play you guys. I'm going to play you guys, because we're all talking about NFTs and everything, I'm going to play you guys a little bit of a Fly Me to the Moon, okay?
Oh, I like it.
Okay, a little interlude of Fly Me to the Moon.
Oh, I love it. What a talent. Imagine being that, so you can walk up to an instrument and make it sound like that. What a talent. Maybe when I become a crypto millionaire, that's what I'll spend my time doing. I'm going to retire and learn to play the piano.
I'm going to get you a piano in here. Do you remember when Kev bought his one in?
That was
into the studio. We'll get you one in here and see what you can do.
I'm the Breakfast with Winners pianist, apparently, the crypto pianist.
There you go. Yeah, crypto pianist. I mean, that's a niche within a niche, isn't it? Fantastic.
And we can actually even talk about like music, and actually some of the best NFTs are actually music based. So that's for another day. But I hope I was able to answer some of the questions as well as interlude of piano. This other daughter is only 2, so she doesn't play that well yet. The other one is 8, and she's an international winner. So
how cool.
Anyway, passing it back to you guys.
Awesome stuff. Thank you, Jennifer. I think, I've seen quite a lot of interesting stuff that musicians are doing with NFTs, where there's a kickback on the royalty and stuff. It's really interesting. Really, really interesting. Right, let's go for it. We've opened up the hand raise now. If you have got a question and you'd like to ask it, please feel free to come on stage. Please only put your hand up if you want to come and ask a question. Again, none of this room should be considered to be financial advice. This is just the opinions of just a 400 or 500 of us who get together every day and have a little chit chat. Bob's flashing away. Bob, good morning, my man. What's your question, pal?
Good morning, James. And I got a question for you. The conversation around crypto seems to be dominated by the financial side of things, or NFTs and that sort of thing. But being an osteopath, my take on it is more about how the blockchain can be applied in the medical world. I can see opportunities for it. The NHS getting medical records onto a blockchain and secured would mean that different hospitals, different CQCs, etc., have different formats for keeping patient data, and actually unifying that and keeping it in one place would be a real boon to society. Because in my work, I see lots of people that don't actually know what's going on with them medically. Nobody's actually sat down and explained it to them. And different departments have different ways of keeping medical records, etc., etc. Lots of things like that. And have you guys done anything looking at the world of blockchain from a medical perspective? That's my question.
But I could probably touch on that a little bit.
Go for it. I'm glad that somebody can, because me and Paul are both going to have to say no.
No, I've got an answer.
I'm not only a technologist, but I'm also a yoga instructor for over 30 years and a yoga therapist. And I literally just got interviewed by Top Magazine in New York about this just the other day, because the use cases that are going to come forward, as Paul so eloquently put, need to really solve real life problems. So, for example, that is one that's valid. How can someone, let's take an expat, for example. let's say Bob moves from London and he moves to, I don't know, he moves to Mexico City. And he needs his medical records to go there. The challenge across all the countries is their medical records have to relate to privacy, right? The HIPAA in the US, and I'm sure a lot of countries have their own privacy version of that. What the blockchain could do in a true use case would be democratize the data and put it back into the hands of you as a patient, which means you control your data on the blockchain in essence, right? So that would allow you to hold your data. So if you go to any place in the world, the blockchain would have your data accessible to any doctor you would see, which is what's a really brilliant, brilliant thing, because it could also help to solve problems of problems as an osteopath, right? Because I work with osteopaths and physical therapists as a yoga therapist, because we collaborate because of our clients. But I won't bring the M word into the equation, because that is where I do and have already started to design out a use case using the M word, but I won't use it because I don't want to go there.
Anna, you have to enlighten me. What is the M word?
Paul knows what the M word is. I'm just not going to use it.
I don't know what the M word is.
Metaverse. God damn it.
Oh, that thing. Sorry. Okay.
No. The reason I said that is because I'm in the school of Paul with metaverse. I mean, I'm just so over it, to be honest, and that's a really harsh thing to say. But the reason I'm over it is because we have to look at the generations of the world. And yes, you could build towards that future, of course. But at the end of the day, we're like at probably Web 2.5. We're not even at Web 3 fully yet, because you can't just go from Web 2 to Web 3. You just can't. That's too big of a leap for a lot of people's brains. So you have to bring them over slowly. And when you bring them over slowly, in essence, what that means is that, yeah, there'll be some early adopters to the metaverse. And let me tell you, I literally just talked to a mate of mine at Accenture who's arguing with me that in a funny way, because we're like, what are these people talking about metaverse and they have no clue what they're throwing money at? And there's all these people around a table that are like talking about all these big ideals, but they can't execute on those big ideals to bring it to life because it's not 100% hashed out yet, right? So with that said, Bob, inside the metaverse, I'm already working with a client who is a physical therapist in the US to find a way to bridge her business into the metaverse Web 3, because that is going to help people, for example, paraplegics, that their brain is still working. Do you see what I'm saying? There's real use case in this. And this is the stuff that inspires me, because that's where you're helping populations to heal and to get access to their data and to get access to research so that we could solve real life problems for the generations to come. And that's where I think the metaverse is going to have a pretty powerful use case, as well as blockchain technology, which will allow for the sharing of records and no falsifying of records as well, which is a really important thing. I hope that answered your question.
So, Bob, I'll layer on to what Amy just said. So I've looked at not health, but construction, because I'm heavily into sort of property and construction, and I've sort of looked at use cases in terms of how it can be applied, how blockchain can be applied. And there's a lot of myths around blockchain, and there's a lot of sort of misconceptions, I think is probably the best way to describe it. But one of them is that the reality is, and I'm sure anyone that's in blockchain or knows a little bit about it will probably agree with this statement, is that traditional databases at the moment still perform from a technical perspective and a programming perspective and a computer science perspective better than the blockchain does. So in many cases, with many the way technology works at the moment, it's still better, easier, quicker to use traditional databases to develop tech. Where the blockchain fits into all of that complex argument is, which Amy just touched on, data portability. So being able to quickly move data. So in the NHS's case, like you spoke about, if you want to try and I've gone through this journey, so it's painful. If you want to try and move your medical records from the NHS to a private doctor or to a private healthcare provider, that is an extremely painful experience. So the blockchain could solve that. Blockchain technology could solve that, because your medical record could be on the blockchain and it could be yours inside a digital wallet, as an NFT, a smart contract, and you could move that to whoever you wanted to move it at a click of a button. That is easy to do. If you're, for instance, moving data between apps at the moment. So take your, I don't know, if you use Uber a lot, take Uber. If your Uber rating's really high, why can't your Uber rating be transferred to, say, an Airbnb, where that real-time feedback could be shared between apps? The reason being is because they're built on different platforms and there's no way of linking the two together. But in a blockchain world, there could be a way in which that data could be portably moved between applications. So the use cases that you'll see develop very quickly in the blockchain world, and if you're thinking about doing it, it's basically to... blockchain is a truth machine, isn't it? It's digital trust. So in use cases where you have third-party companies or third-party entities that have to facilitate that transaction, where there's a question of trust, then blockchain can immediately remove that concern of trust, and you can have matter-of-fact digital trust in terms of a transaction. And there's a few use cases that spring to mind in that. So in the one that I was looking at, whether it be in construction, there's a lot that goes on. If you understand property and the way that you build buildings, and this is pretty much the same around the world, there's a lot that goes into it from a payment perspective. Most of the time there's a financial backer, which is a bank that's got a big loan to the developer. Then you've got various professional consultants in the chain. They're overseeing the contractors. The contractors have a reporting system with various people in the chain, and they're providing lots of financial documents and valuations to their subcontractors. So you've got lots of third-party entities acting all the way down a construction chain of custody from top to bottom. You know, in some cases on large projects, hundreds of intermediaries working in between all the way down, authorising payments at different stages for that to happen. So to have a digital contract where it removes that need for third parties and it removes that question of trust, and it's matter-of-fact digital trust. So did this happen at this time on this day? Well, yes, the blockchain said it did happen, so therefore you can release payment for that. That, just in simplistic terms that I've just described, would save, in some cases, payment processes that can be drawn out to like 120 days. But because of that, the industry works and is structured around those payment processes on 120 days. So there's be a lot of resistance from the big contractors, the big professional consultancies, the big entities in there to stop that technology from breaking through, because they don't want to change the mold. It's a bit like we spoke about a couple of times in this room, digitalization or tokenization of real estate, and the ability to, in advance, create your all of the deeds and property records that you have and the information that's important for the transfer of your property, which is effectively what a solicitor does when you sell your house or sell any property, have all of that contained in a smart contract, and with a click of a button and simply a copy and paste of somebody's address, you can transfer that digital asset to them. So that property ownership can be transferred instantly, as opposed to it taking 6 months or in some cases longer. But you can see that just in that process alone, again, how many jobs would be transformed, how many companies would be killed off, because that would speed up, it would remove the friction, it would remove the trust issue that sometimes is prevalent in transactions like that, but equally it would disrupt a huge industry. So you're going to get, again, a lot of resistance to people wanting to keep that technology pushed down to prevent that change from happening. But without going, because you could talk for this for hours, Jesus Christ, but without going too far into it, the quick use cases that are going to develop very quickly are ones where data needs to be, or information needs to be made portable very quickly, where you need somebody could take back ownership of that data and use that for their own use. There'll be a lot of use cases popping up there where transactions can speed up very quickly, again, removing the friction and removing the need for a third party to make that transaction happen. So peer-to-peer, which is why you are seeing that happen a lot in this DeFi world, the finance world, because that will flow first. In any change, the money's going to come first, isn't it? The change to decentralized finance, peer-to-peer lending, the ability to remove third parties, that's going to happen quickly. And then a lot of other use cases are going to pop up. Now, not every business will become a blockchain business. It's just impossible, you know. If you just want to sell goods online, there's no need for that to be a blockchain business, unless you want to then go down the road of utilizing NFTs for memberships, or a shop could create its own NFT, and with ownership of that NFT you get a certain element of discount, or a access to a certain part of an online store that nobody else gets access to, or early access to products. So there's with just NFTs, there's loads of use cases that can be spun out of that NFT technology. We're seeing it used a lot in digital art at the moment, because and like James described, in music, because that's where it's again, a lot of hype is going into that. But there's so many other use cases around the way memberships are structured with NFTs, because what happens when somebody has an NFT? They have a digital ownership of something. So let's look at Starbucks. Take Starbucks, for instance. When you have, you get your loyalty card from Starbucks, every time you get a coffee, you get points, don't you, or cost to do it, or something along those lines. And then maybe every 5 coffees, you get a free coffee. Okay, that's a loyalty scheme. It's no different to Tesco's. Tesco's in the UK, the biggest supermarket, or one of them, have a club card system where you get points. Those concepts are exactly what can be replicated with NFTs. So your business could have its own NFT, and that NFT could represent a membership, and you could build all sorts of benefits and access and utility and use cases into that NFT that incentivize your customers to want to go and purchase that NFT. So I just think there's so many different, with NFTs, there's a lot of different use cases, but with the blockchain technology, we're still really, really early. In 3 or 4 years' time, you'll probably see 2 or 3 entities that have popped up that have got lots of funding. They're probably out there building them now, that allow for real estate to be transacted as a token. That will be one big use case that will pop up. Medical records. I know there's already companies that are working on developing systems that I'm guessing they would then go in and sell to various medical institutes around the world to be able to move medical records around. You can see a world where your logbook of your car could become a smart contract, an NFT. Do you need a paper logbook? But again, it needs somebody to build out that platform that allows the big institutions to be able to then develop and use it and grow into that, and then change the use cases. So just that alone is going to take a few years for people to catch up and then want to do that. In future, our driving licenses, our passports, all of that stuff will be NFTs, because a technology for company will develop a platform that makes it easy for countries to issue passports as NFTs, but it needs somebody to build the technology and somebody to sort of draw out those use cases. So yeah, sorry Bob, that was a 10-minute monologue that you're never going to get back ever again.
That was a fantastic monologue, and I totally agree with you. I think as a disruptive technology, the whole crypto world is going to be amazing. I mean, I don't know if you know, but I've been doing a bit of digging around, because I've been looking at medical records and what we can do. There was a working paper on distributed ledger technologies in 2017 that you might not have read, but it was really interesting, but didn't go anywhere, funnily enough.
Well, a lot of people in a lot of sectors have done this. So a lot of big unions, or not unions, but membership organisations. So like you said, there would have been a big organisation that would have commissioned that report. It's the same in the construction industry. One of the big entities, the membership organisations that people signed up to, produced a blockchain, like a exactly the same decentralised ledger blockchain in construction report 6 years ago. But nobody's acted on it. Nobody's done anything about it. This report was produced, but again, nobody's. Let's look at how long it took us to get something like ClickUp that we use every day. Let's put it back into context again. How long did it take us to get Xero, the accountancy software built online? It just takes somebody to go out there and build that use case and that tech up, but it's going to just take time, isn't it? Unless you want to go and build it. Go and get funding to be the next company that's going to put medical records online, Bob.
I tell you what, I would love to do that. You got any cash in the bank at all?
No, some bastard took it last week when they hacked us.
We were about to invest as well, Bob. We were on the edge of our seats, but now we can't because we've been hacked.
Yeah, I know, but you'd help me if you could. I know, but I'm definitely going to be speaking to you, Amy. I'm really interested in what you're talking about there with your client. So yeah, I'll back channel you.
There's lots of incubator spaces.
Yeah, and actually, to the point of what you asked about, and actually not to be funny, but Bob, the amount of money that's being thrown into this space right now, I'd probably go agree with Paul. Go and create it. because you probably would, if you come up with a good enough use case, you probably would find funding not so hard. That's just my opinion.
Okay, I'll take that on board. Thank you.
Awesome stuff. There you go. You've heard it live.
There's lots of incubators and seed startup sort of companies out there that specialise in taking people with the ideas and concepts and then helping them develop them in sort of a blockchain environment. There's loads of those popping up all over the place, isn't there? Because there will be, the next, let's tell it for what it is, the next big unicorns. Well, they already are, but all of the future unicorns are going to be coming from the blockchain space. That's like fact. They will be. Just, it is what it is. Stephen Bartlett launched a company called Third Web, and it's only like a couple of months old. It's already got a valuation of 400 million.
Yeah, when we were talking with someone about this the other day, we were like, what's that based on? Because they've got no users, they've got no revenue. It's like, that's based on what they've been able to raise. So you can raise £1 million at a 40x return, or whatever the multiples are in that sector. So therefore you're a £400 million business. Like, okay, sure. Interesting times indeed. Great use of the back channel. My phone just died. I can't even join in the conversation. I can only join it in via Paul's little head. So I can't see anything that's going on. Is anyone flashing? Anyone got a question for us? Paul, you're going to have to keep an eye on the phones, because I've got...
Shelley is our mate Shelley. She's flashing.
Shelley. I love the fact we've renamed her Shelley.
So Paul, I totally agree with having everything in one place in terms of, your medical records and, passports and all that sort of stuff in digital wallets, which is really beneficial, because I've been in and out of hospitals with kids for many years, and even within one hospital, under the Moorfields Eye Hospital, you can't even from one department to another have a conversation with somebody because they don't know what's going on. So I see the benefit of that and having all the information centralized. However, where does it cross the line where we look to China and it's like, it's a social credit platform? Who governs that? Like, is it going to be, you can bet your bottom dollar, Bob, that, people are already pitching to Serco and the government going, we can make a bit here, around controlling data and NHS records. So my question is, there's going to be a fine line where all of that is really great. Who's governing it? Who's in control of it really? And when does it become controllable by the state, as it is happening with social credits in China? It's really, good or bad. We've got to be, really mindful of that.
Do you know what, Nichelle? We're going to get him on. There's a guy who we're trying our hardest to get on as a guest, and he's a historian,
financial historian,
which sounds boring, but actually what he has to say is not boring.
It's so interesting,
and it goes back to your point. And there is he says it more elegant than me.
Give it a go. Come on,
I can't remember the facts and figures, but I'm gonna give you a little bit of a...
No one knows.
So back in the Renaissance, and I'm not a historian, so forgive me if I've got the dates and the terminology wrong. I'm retelling somebody's
Renaissance,
story.
he means 1983.
But in the Renaissance, 1983. No, in the Renaissance, there was a big thing invented called the printing press, which effectively took where publication of information was centralised, i.e., only you'd have to be a big institution or to be able to print something like a newspaper or a newsletter or some information. The printing press was produced, which basically broke up and decentralised what was just a very closed shop of...
Up until that point, wasn't it saying like there was 10,000 books in total in the United Kingdom?
Yeah,
in like the 1400s, there was 10,000 books total, and they were owned by scholars and the ancient universities and the royal family, and the higher to dos.
Yeah, and then the printing press was created, and the ability to print anything, books and information was vast, and then there was a whole boom of basically that came from it.
Yeah.
But then what happened was publishers were born off the back of that. So big institutions then built up their silos of information, and what was a decentralized world of anybody being able to get access to a printing press to print a book become centralized, because you had these big publishers taking control. So then it became difficult again for people to break into that centralized world. And so again, he'll tell the versions of that in a really probably extended way. But that process of being decentralized or being centralized, then decentralized, to becoming centralized again, to becoming decentralized is a pattern that repeats itself throughout history in almost every sector and institution. So in the banking industry, you know, it becomes centralized. It's now becoming decentralized. In the web world, the web was launched and it was really good and it was really exciting. And then these big tech firms become the data silos for all of our information. And now we're going through this transition where that's becoming decentralized to some extent, and we're taking back our ownership. But here's the problem. If a company go and develop blockchain's exciting at the moment because it can decentralize that information and allow information to be portable and move around in the NHS's case. But if a big company goes and gets a monopoly on that and builds a platform and tech that has the ability to move medical records around, then really, unless it's completely decentralized in terms of governance and the way that entity is set up, then we're going back to a world where we've changed potentially from one solution, which is at the moment the NHS having their own database, to putting your all eggs in one basket to a new tech company that might not, you know, be doing the same thing that the big tech is doing at the moment. It's just be skinned up in a different way with the word blockchain underneath it. Just in a, you know, you get where I'm going. It'd be the same animal, but just with a slightly different technology. And so that is the risk I see with this decentralized world. Is yes, we're going down a rabbit hole now of the trend is everything's becoming decentralized, but how much do we really want to be decentralized? You know, just in the finance space, we're protected because we can phone Visa or we can phone our bank when something goes wrong, or the prevention that's put in place to stop people hacking your bank accounts. That security layer is already somebody else is concerning themselves about that and worrying about that. We don't have to do any of that. We move into a world of decentralized finance where we're in charge of our digital assets. There is calling nobody up. There's no security layer. We are the security layer. So the question I see is, the idea of a decentralized world and decentralized platforms and decentralized networks in some use cases is perfect and it solves a lot of problems. But I'm not sure how far we're all prepared to go down the rabbit hole of being decentralized, because some centralization is needed. And actually, out of being decentralized, new tech unicorns or tech companies are going to be created that take back that control away from us. And in 10 years' time, 15 years' time, we'll be moaning about what they do and how they're using our data. And somebody else will come up with a technology to decentralize it again.
Yeah, this is really fascinating, right? Because knowledge is power. And if you go way back to the medieval times, and Ray Dalio has also written a book around sort of like the great economic reset patterns that occur over the centuries. So if you go back to the medieval times, knowledge and power was only governed by, accessible to the lords and the kings and the queens and all that sort of stuff. And then, like you say, it trickles down through the timeline, and then we get to the publishers. And then so again, publishers are for the academics, for the universities, the people with money and power who can read and write and absorb all of this knowledge globally. Then you get what comes in and goes, oh look, let's control the masses through. That's when the media are born, and those people who are the media proprietors and the gurus were originally the lords, well, and still are, the Rothermere families and the Rothschilds and the the Gettys, the really big, powerful global money families. And so what's happening now is that knowledge is becoming accessible to everybody, so is power, and that's where they're worried about destabilizing their positions at the top of the tree versus us lot who are all, that's why they don't teach entrepreneurship in schools, because they don't want a bunch of us all going, oh, we can take back our own, stand in our own power and do what serves the people rather than what serves them. So back to you, Paul. Brilliant. I'm really looking forward to that, guy.
Paul, can I just build on what Michelle just said?
Go, mate. How are you? Good morning.
Very well indeed. Fascinating conversation this morning. Take it to the nth degree and complete conspiracy, right? See what's going on at the moment. The cost of living is going through the roof. We've got this hike coming up on the 1st of April. Our bills are going to go up. How do we weaken the society? We make them reliant on certain things so they can't move. So if we're financially, if there's an emotional poverty, if there's financial poverty, our energy is down. Then we can't be productive. So we might have access to all of these things now. Like when the printing press, everybody could print a book, but there were certain people who took it on a level because they had maybe more resources, more connections, more stronger mindset, whatever you want to call it. So when we get into this decentralized world, we've got access to all of these things. However, access to everything doesn't mean that we will all be equally empowered. because our mindset's in a different place, our resources are a different place, our opportunities are a different place. We ask different questions. And those who are brave enough, those who are lucky enough, those who are in certain circles will be able to take advantage of the assets that others don't. So like you say, we're going into this decentralization thing, but I cannot see a situation where we have complete access to all our data unconditionally. There will be one big tech company or several tech companies that on the surface looks like we've got control, but in the end, they have control. Hope that helps.
Absolutely. And if you can't beat them, join them. That's why we're launching the Winners Club NFT.
But
the evil overlords have been me and Paul.
Beiju's right there. We've all got access to what in this short-term window until it becomes fully regulated and loopholes are closed down. We've all got the ability as entrepreneurs. Tell it for what it is. We've all got the ability, and some of this has been around for 5 or 6 years, by the way. Coin offerings, initial coin offerings, fundraisers through crypto, blah blah blah, has been going on for a fair few years. But until it becomes unregulated, all of a sudden there's a world where if you've been able to develop a platform or come up with a concept and an idea, you can fundraise very quickly through an initial coin offering or a token offering, or there's various words to describe it, which circumvents and bypasses traditional ways in which you would go and raise finance for a new organisation or new business. So there's these memberships. We've got the ability at the moment to revolutionise or change or just think outside the box the way we all structure our memberships. Most people in this room or a lot of people in this room have their own memberships platforms or their own membership groups. With the use of NFTs and understanding how smart contracts work, if we're willing to put the time in and learn how they work, you've potentially got the ability to think outside the box and do something different. Doesn't necessarily mean it's the right thing to do, or even if it's the best option for you. And like we said, not all businesses are blockchain businesses. Not all membership sites need to become memberships with NFTs. But if you've got the ability, or you're at a crossroads to do something new, you can have a look to those tools and say, right, okay, can any of that stuff change the mold, disrupt or improve the way we're doing something at the moment? And I think that's what you said, Beiju's key, is we've all got access to these tools, but not everybody's going to use them, and not everybody is going to be brave enough to use them, because it is a new world to some extent. Could go on this conversation for ages, couldn't we?
We could. Probably shouldn't though, because it's nearly 9 o'clock. But there we go. C'est la vie. By the way, guys, if you're enjoying this conversation, you can get more information exactly like this from our podcast. We'd love for you to go and support the show. It would mean a lot to us if you could do so. Please, you can get to the show by clicking the link at the top of the room right now. The show is called Understanding Crypto. It's me and Paul's. Basically, it's two idiots in a room talking about subjects they are underqualified to discuss, but we're trying to make it as easy, as palatable, as absorbable for people. Absorbable, easy for me to say. As absorbable as possible for people, so that we can all understand what this Web3 world actually means in real time right now. Click the link at the top of the room, and you can get all 5 beautiful episodes. There have already been 5 episodes released for you. It's an iTunes top podcast here in the United Kingdom. Top 10 investment podcast, I'll have you know. Yeah, we're fancy and all that. So yeah, go and give it a little check out for us. We'd appreciate it. You can get it on Apple or Spotify. Just click on the link at the top of the room right now. And this week's episode is all about crypto asset ownership.
I'm going to post a link. I'm going to try and work out how to get this. There's a really, really good article online. I'm going to try and I'll work out how to do it. There's a really, really good article online that I found quite a while back actually, but it breaks down. When was this written? I'm trying to look for a date of when this blog post was written by somebody. It's actually a solicitor's breaking down the use cases and demystifying some of the myths around business use cases for blockchain and how it could or couldn't be used. And they've got they're looking at their impact. This is one of the big law firms, and it's by impact of blockchain. So how blockchain is going to impact industries. So this is their predictions in terms of the industries. So the first one is agriculture. The next one is arts and recreation, which we're already seeing. Yeah. The next one after that is automotive, which who's that? Is that you doing that? Are you?
No. There you go. Sorted.
Next one, so number 3 was automotive, then financial services. So it's interesting because we're already seeing So out of their prediction for agriculture, arts, recreation, automotive and financial services was number 4. We're already seeing that come to the forefront, aren't we? Financial services is the one that's being impacted most at the moment in the short term. Then healthcare, insurance, manufacturing, mining, property and retail. So it lists it. And that's basically in order of third parties, isn't it, basically?
Hey, Paul, that's a really interesting list. It's really a bit off the entire list. And you know what's even funnier? You said it was a law firm, right? Where's legal on that? Smart contracts are going to do away with lawyers. So at the end of the day, that whole list, retail is being disrupted already with Gucci and the Arine, which is a blockchain for luxury. I mean, 41% is financial services. Art and creative has already been happening with NFTs and metaverse. When it comes to supply chain, that's already being done since 2017 and 18 with IBM GBS. As you said, the big guys already in, which is IBM, GBS, Deloitte, SAP, and Accenture. They're all in. They're all coming. They all came in 17 and 18. So I think there's a real sort of come to Jesus that some of these industries that are doing these reports have to have some realism of integrity on how they're reporting as well. Because legal is also being disrupted because there's a lot of nefarious stuff that happens when people are paid off for whatever you're doing in a legal space, a contract. And remember, Paul, you hit the nail on the head. Anything that requires a number of intermediaries from the buyer to the seller's hands, and Ray Dalio talks about this as well, is going to be disrupted. And I worked for a law firm, one of the top 3 law firms in the United States. And let me tell you, there's a lot of hands exchanging a lot of money in between where we're billing hours to clients at astronomical rates. And you're thinking to myself, wait a second, why are we paying this? And then that's when you start to see the writings on the wall that the industries that are being disrupted are the ones that have been notoriously exploiting the process to make more gain financially.
It's a clever little tactic from the law firm, isn't it? Here's the things that you need to be watching out for. It's like a massive distraction, isn't it?
I'm checking whether they're a law firm or an accountancy firm. I can't really say. You know, these professional services websites, they all look the bloody same, don't they?
You know what, it could also be PwC or someone like that.
Yeah.
You know, they always like doing these reports. But on a little added funny note, it's also very interesting because there's so many people doing these reports, including Accenture, because that was my friend's, that's where my friend works. And it's fascinating to see how like they're like, I feel like it's like herding cats. I feel like it's like herding cats right now. Like everyone's trying to wrap themselves around this and they're trying to put a Web 2 thinking on it. But it's actually much more disruptive than that. As the woman who was speaking before, because I agree with what she was saying. I apologize for not remembering the name. I'm usually really good at that. But the process of understanding that data is going to be king and queen. Data is going to be the big deal. So you're going to be able to hold your data. And now people are going to have to pay you for your data. See, that's going to be the brilliance of it, is it's flipping the script on the whole system. It's flipping the script on the whole way of doing global economies as well. People are going to start moving to local and global, but as an individual entrepreneur, I think entrepreneurs are going to be the ones that have the most innovative ways of looking at the problems to solve, because like you just described very eloquently, Paul, if you have an expertise of a business process, you could enter in the space, take your process, understand your process real well, and then transform that knowledge into another space. And that's where we're going to have to bridge the gap between the older and the younger as well. Because some people don't have the bandwidth to take this into their head. Other people do. But it's just about collaboration and connecting with the right people to solve problems. And the whole ethos of blockchain is decentralized. And when you mentioned about data and all of how long it takes with the NHS, yeah, that's also why SAP is number 2 and Oracle is number 1. Because Oracle is Linux in the back end. It's bulletproof, but it's somewhat centralized. When you look at SAP AG, Germany, it's 100,000 decentralized tables in the back end, which allows you to customize, which is why Porsche, that's why all the big companies, Fortune 100, use SAP a lot as well, especially when they're in a supply chain or a process-driven business, because everything that SAP does is based in business process. Everything that blockchain is done is based in business process. So anything that has a business process that could be disrupted to make it agile and more lean, to save money, optimize resources. Not everything's going to go to the blockchain, but some things will. Probably a lot of things will, because there's a lot of industries that have a lot of fat to them that no one's wanted to lose. Keep on getting that fat. Like no one wants, you know what I'm talking about, Paul? When you have 5 rows of managers and you're like, why, what are y'all doing here? Like you start to wonder, what are they all doing there? And then you're like, well, wait a second, what are you getting paid for? And it's really brass, it's really kind of direct to say that, but it's a real problem in huge corporations that I like to call, our network marketing companies.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think one thing that will change in this new world is the product is going to have to become very clear. So at the moment, I think we live in a world where it's very difficult to actually know what the product is or what the intention is of somebody. Like you read some information and you're not quite sure if it's written in a way. Or you watch someone's video and you're not quite sure if they're giving you the information to sell to you in a minute or at the end, or if they're just seeding something for something in the future. You're never quite sure if you're the customer or the product itself, or you are the product. If you listen to, if you make up a membership on, say, a digital subscription to a big publishing company, you're the product. The product's not the news. You're the product. Your membership is the product that they're it's never quite clear, is it, when you're signing up to like social media? We are all the product. What's Facebook's product? It's us, the people. And our data. And I think that will have to become a lot clearer with the way this technology is making stuff underpin. You look confused and or concerned. I'm not quite sure.
No, just we've said it a few times. I think it's just worth saying again. We've had Adiola's put a comment into the chat saying, I want to learn crypto. Who should I go with? Adiola, please do your own due diligence. Do not, because all that will happen if you post comments like that is that all the spammers will just inbox you, be like, yeah, find out more information. You've had some great advice there. There's lots of free training platforms. Do some Googling. Do your own due diligence. I know you've mentioned that you've reached out to a couple of people directly for their advice on it. Do your own due diligence, please. None of this room should be considered investment advice. It hasn't been investment advice. It's been, it's just been a chit chat amongst 630 odd friends. There you go. And before we go, quickly want to just jump onto this because I know we've only got 5 minutes left. But in the chat, everything about this paragraph intrigued me. So Sarah Oakley said, I'm launching my Brave Bird pants business on Friday. We're fundraising for domestic abuse charity. Pre-orders to get a chance to win a rare Pepe NFT from my personal collection because I'm onboarding women into Web3 is part of my empowerment message. Can I talk about it? I don't want to ruin the flow. Sarah Oakley, of course you can. I'd love to hear more about this. Are you there, my friend?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Sarah Oakley from Brave Bird Club, and I suppose that was a little shout out to say, can I get a bit of help? And I've been in this room lots of times, and I know you're an amazing community. So, yeah, I'd love to come with you with what I'm about. Basically, I am selling Brave Bird pants, and the reason I'm selling Brave Bird pants is that my best friend was in an abusive relationship, and we were not allowed to speak for about 8 years, and her life got stolen away by this guy. And one day I got a text on my phone and she said, I need to leave him, but I don't know how. And I was like, oh my God, what do I say back? So I said to her, what would you say to your best friend? And she said, to put my brave pants on and crack on with it. And I was like, okay, do that. So bless her, she left him. Things like leaving's never easy, but she got away. And in my head, all I heard was brave bird pants, I've got to make these pants. So we're selling pants and we're fundraising for the domestic abuse charity My Sister's House, who are based in Bognor Regis. And the actual pants store launches on Friday, but we're taking pre-orders. So how this kind of combines with this crypto room is that so I'm sort of fascinated by 2 things, bravery and the crypto world and Web3. So as part of drawing some attention to the cause, I've gone through my personal collection and Sorry if I sound a bit nervous. I'm not used to speaking in these big rooms, but I've gone through my personal collection and put up an NFT that anyone who pre-orders is in for a chance to win. And it's a rare Pepe NFT. I don't know if you've heard of these. And again, no investment advice, but it's a historic NFT. So I figure I'm also involved, I'm investing in other kind of community projects, but this one's an NFT from September 2016. It was the first one to feature a woman on it that we know of at the moment. It was done on the Bitcoin network rather than Ethereum. So it's very original, it's got historic value, and yeah, people are in with a chance to get that. So thank you. And if you have any questions about that or about the pants, then I'm here to answer. Otherwise, yeah, I appreciate you giving me this time.
Awesome stuff. No worries. It's our genuine pleasure. And do you know what? Come back on Friday when the launch has gone live and tell us more about it. And we'll carve out 15, 20 minutes, because I know we've got to wrap up the room now. But we'll carve it. It's, a great thing for a great reason, for a great cause, and mixing the real world. Who would have thought that pants and NFTs would come together so beautifully? But yeah, make sure you come back in on. I'll pop you a DM in the background, Sarah, and we'll.
Someone's put here. Brave Bird pants have been endorsed by Dame Julie Dench.
Yeah. There you go. Brilliant. You've got a dame in your pants.
It's true. And that was my post yesterday, a dame in my pants.
How cool is that? Yeah, well, we are a big family here. We are big fans of collaborating and helping support great people doing great things. And I think this definitely falls into that camp. So I'll pop you a message in the back channel. And on Friday, we will allocate some time on the Big Friday show. I know we've got a guest in the studio on Friday. Did you not know about that? You look confused.
Have we? No, I didn't know about that.
Your systems and processes are falling by the wayside, aren't they? No, we have. Shipman's organised it. I mean, It might not happen. It might not come to nothing. So, yeah, there we go. But we will allocate some time.
Can I ask who it is off air? I'll ask off air.
Ask off air, yeah. I can't, because I actually don't know the guy's name.
Okay.
I'll have to find out. Anyway, thank you for listening this morning, gang. I very much appreciate it. Go and click onto Sarah's profile, and she's down, as you pull to refresh, she's down the bottom right-hand side with the awesome sort of peachy, orangey, super cool coloured background. Go and check out. No, sorry, she's now down the bottom left, because a couple of people are left. Bottom left, go and check out what she's up to with her pre-launch. And yeah, we'll bring you on Friday, Sarah. But cheers for your ears, as always, gang. Hope you've enjoyed this morning. Thank you for the great questions, the great contributions, the great shares. Again, none of this room should be considered financial advice. Go and do your own due diligence. Seek out advice from other experts, or just do a bit of Googling, whatever you want to do. And don't forget to go and check out. I'll tell you one thing, though.
So
from a due diligence perspective, the one thing everybody should do right now, all 117 people, click onto the link at the top of the room right now and listen to this week's episode of Understanding Crypto.
Just some, we should have touched on this earlier. We'll touch on it again, but I think this is a thank you to the community. And you didn't acknowledge this message that I put in the group because I think you was busy. But do you know we've reached over 700,000 individual listeners via this room since we started?
That's mega, isn't it?
700,000.
And how many minutes of listening time? Like 6
total listening time people have spent listening to us lot, which is a shame to them. Definitely a shame to them. 16.8 million minutes of listen time since we started 14 months ago. 16.8 million. It's a lot, isn't it? A lot of time.
700,000 individual people.
701,000. Well, 701,000.
There you go.
Yeah. Individual listeners reached since
701,000 lives touched. Probably not in a good way. Anyway, thanks for being here, gang. We'll see you again tomorrow morning, 6:30 a.m. Have a lovely day. Enjoy your Wednesday. Ta-da. Love you. Bye.